Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Seatrade Maritime and Informa Markets, I'd like to thank you all for coming this afternoon to the Innovation Incubator. My name is Joanna Krishan. I'm a conference producer with Seatrade Maritime. We'll give everyone just another 5 minutes to try and get here, get their seats, and then we'll be ready to start. Today's session relies on audience participation because we would like you to vote on the pitches that you will be hearing on stage. And I'll go through the system that we'll use, the voting system that we'll use for this in a second. And then I'll introduce our chair for this afternoon. All right, we're gonna start. Before we start, as I mentioned, because we rely on audience voting for the session, you will hear 3 pitches because we believe innovation is very important in the industry, and so have you told us, and which is why the session is on the agenda today. So we will present to you 3 solutions from various sides of the industry, and we will ask you to vote based on a few criteria. As you see on the screen here, switch back please. Slido is the audience engagement platform we will be using. Please scan this QR code, it will take you straight to the event. And what will happen there, you will have to choose the room which we are in, which is the breakout theater. And at the very top of the screen, you will see there is Q&A, which gives you a chance to ask questions, type in questions for speakers on stage. But more importantly, the second menu at the top is polls. And that's the function we will be using today for you to be able to vote on the pitches that you will be hearing during the Innovation Incubator. So without further ado, I'd like to call to the stage our chair for the day, Mr. Nikhil Idnani, who is the Honorary Secretary for the Institute of Marine Engineering, Science and Technology, in short, IMARES, for the UAE, and a very capable, very passionate, and very innovative thinking man.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Innovation Incubator pitch session. My name, as Joanna mentioned, is Nikhil Idnani, and I'm the Honorary Secretary of the Institute's UAE branch. The IMARES is hosting this discussion today. And we will provide a stage for startups and innovators creating some of the latest technology projects and solutions to enhance the efficiency of the shipping industry. In the next 90 minutes, we will hear 3 pitches, followed by a Q&A session, as Joanna announced, in which you, the audience, are encouraged to participate, followed by voting on the viability of these projects that we will discuss. Joanna mentioned about Slido, so if you use your cameras, and of course it'll come up on the screen, so please, there's nothing to download, you'll go straight into the system. I did it myself. All right, these are our esteemed panelists, but allow me to introduce the first one, which is Pomfret Cloud by Anthony Kitharian, who's the founder and CEO of Entos Technologies. So Pomfret.cloud offers 3 solutions: DA Docs, One Freighter, Sea Fleet under the one platform. DA Docs, today 80% of shipping agencies are using Excel sheets or very legacy systems to manage PDA to FDA processes. PDA to FDA is one of the complex processes as it not only involves pricing but also involves various documentation for ports, customs, and so on. Sometimes not keeping track of the vessels and cargo leads to high demurrage and detention costs. DA Docs is a software solution fully automating all activities from PDA to FDA. It allows you to create consistent PDAs, generating port and customs required documents on the fly, and monitoring the vessels in one page for management. It's co-created with a shipping agency and therefore meets the industry expectations from day one. One Freighter is the software solution of integrating ship liners, freight forwarders, importers, and exporters for door-to-door delivery operations. While Sea Fleet is a centralized solution to manage cargo vessels, managing vessel details, voyages, and operation maintenance records. To know more about that, I'd like to call my colleague, Anthony Kitharian, on stage to tell us more about Pomfret.cloud. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All yours.
So this is slides? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Just keep going, bang, bang, bang.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible? Hello, good evening, everyone. So, in this 10-15 minutes, I'm going to talk about the problems, what we are facing in the context of international trade, and then we look at a solution in terms of efficiency in the overall supply chain, and then what Entos is seeing as a future ahead for the global supply chain, and then probably some Q&A, what we can have it. We all know that maritime industry is a network centric. Researchers have already identified that there are around 40 actors in between in order to deliver a single door-to-door or port-to-port delivery. Not only that, because that's a network of people, a lack of seamless integration and manual processes, because the industry is not only is a part of very rich or enterprises, it's also part of small and medium enterprises. But they are not affordable to have technologies on their home, so there are some manual processes, which leads to longer transit time, delays, and increase in the cost. Academicians also found that half of the cost is coming from managing the data, especially documents related to customs and port. I'm not saying today we do not have systems. Today we too have systems. For example, smart port community systems and many other applications we have. But the problem what we have is all of them are working in silos. So imagine a platform for an exporter, an order management solution. Imagine a platform for an importer, you have a procurement management solution. And you have an integrated cargo management for a freight forwarder, and a complete fleet management for a shipping company or ship owners or ship managers. Or imagine a small player called shipping agency who plays on behalf of ship liners, giving a solution for them to manage their DAs to FTAs as well as the port call automation. And not only this solution working in independent way, all of them integrated and working together in a tandem, right? And that is called Pomfret.cloud. The advantage of having platform, not only Pomfret.cloud, and any platform is leveraging our economies of technology and resources. Imagine if I have to deploy all this solution in each of these players, how much cost it would be, how much resources it could be. But imagine if I can build the same thing on one platform and every player can make, leverage, and then utilize this benefit of this one. So what are the benefits of Pomfret.cloud? United Nations business or enabling trade and business, in e-business, has already a concept called single window, where they expect you or any third-party players to enter the data or digitize information in a single window. And they also given another second point, which is what I love. It says if information is electronic, then it should be submitted only once. Most of the port community systems today implement that. Pomfret.cloud takes this idea to the complete value chain. Imagine I should enter only the data only once in the origin of the data since the beginning of the exporter or our end customers till the port authorities or port terminal operators, right? So that is what I would call, or we would call that as an extended single window concept is what Pomfret.cloud is trying to achieve. So there are three key design principles what we want to achieve. Data should be entered only once in the origin. What do I mean by origin? If I have to enter the cargo details, the best data of origin is the importer or shippers, correct? Because those are the people who knows about the cargo details. Once they entered into the system, that detail should not be altered. Similarly, in the freight forwarder, home bill of lading, or in the ocean freighter, if you are creating a master bill of lading, that is the origin of the source, and it cannot be modified after that. So first principle is that the data should be only entered once in the origin. And the second thing is that as the CFACT or UN CFACT already identified, this information or this is only possible if you digitize or if you electronically enter the data. So in that way, Pomfret.cloud should allow you to enter the data electronically, also scan and digitize your documents related to the trade. And the third one is, it has to be affordable to everybody, because today many big players are affordable to have their own solution. What about a small shipping agency in India or some other developing countries? How would they able to take the advantage of the technology, what it is evolving today? Correct? And that is where affordability become a very key important if we have to move the complete maritime supply logistic in an integrated and digital transformation stage. But in order to do that, we also believe that we need to integrate with ports. But today that is a big challenge because most of the port community systems are very close. We do not have any open API standards. So technologies like Pomfret.cloud or any technologies for that matter, if I have to integrate with port, it is not possible. I have to go and enter into their system, and that is an inhibitor for our advancement towards the maritime global supply chain. So we are to work with the port authorities or port community system, come up with an open API standard. I will talk about the initiatives, what we have done on that side of it. The final barriers, or which also we wanted to achieve as part of the Pomfret.cloud, is that standardization of flow of automation and the documents. This is pretty complex because of each port and each country work in the different form due to geopolitics and geoeconomics. So this may not happen that fast. But do we have the international bodies like IMO and United Nations World Bank? Probably there is a possibility future if this flow of automation also can be done. So this few slides I'm going to share some of the screenshots from our applications. Very recently we integrated with FIATA, Electronic Fill-Up Lading Creation. The FIATA is an international association for freight forwarders, and they have come up with a great idea of creating electronic bill of lading. And that can be electronically verified, and if you want to have a manual in case if some of the port doesn't approve the electronic form of it, you can print it whatever the way you want it and you can use that one. And that's one of the great solution what we have integrated with our freight forwarder solution called SeaFreight, and that is in the test form. In this quarter we are planning to release that in the production version of that one. The second one is about the Sea Fleet. This is a screenshot of creating a voyage and what are the services I can add it to the voyage so that my freight forwarders or my customers can see that and book those services on that fleet. This is about the freight forwarders who can book the cargo in our solution or in a pamphlet.cloud. This will happen when the slip voyage or voyages are published. The cargo people can see the complete voyages and they can book the cargo based on the source and destination and couple of services what you have filtered for them to choose it. And the final one is a single for the shipping agencies. In terms of the complete port call operation automation, we also give the complete view of where the ship and where is your team is doing it and what kind of data is entered. You will see a lot of sub-tabs because this maritime industry is one industry where you found lot of data in terms of one voyage, right? So the managing the data and documents bring a real challenge for us. So what is the future? What we are looking at it or what Entos is trying to see? Our vision is that an autonomous, distributed, global supply chain, trusted supply chain. And that is exactly what we are visioning for that one. But that is definitely not possible without achieving the upper stack of the solution. First thing what we really need to make sure is that everybody in the whole global maritime logistic are having a solution. So if it's the SME, small and medium enterprises, who cannot afford to have a solution, or who doesn't know how to build that one, they can really make use of our pamphlet.cloud. Or if you're a third-party logistic provider or fourth-party logistic provider, you have your solution. Then you are already part of the system to be as part of the global integration supply chain. But then this too is not enough. We have upstream and the downstream players. The downstream we have the port community or port authorities, but they have port community system. So how do the logistic providers can interact with the port seamless of whatever the port it is going to be? So we need a standardized API. So we have initiated something called Seaport Open Community Platform, called .org, and we wanted to work with a lot of port community system to come up with a standardized API. And I also tried to work with the UAE ports and other GCC ports to initiate and come up with some kind of a standardized API, and we will tell the whole world also how it benefits to us. So in order for the global supply chain to work, it is very important to standardize the API for the logistic provider to integrate with any port so that my end customers doesn't worry about which port or which thing they are to work with that one. They only worry about the mediated solution logistic provider, be it pamphlet.cloud or your own on-premise solutions. But even then, some of the manufacturers or big players, they may have their own ERP solutions. They may not be interested in coming on your platform. So that way, we also have to standardize the upstream stack of APIs so that even the manufacturer ERPs can integrate with your platform. So that if all of them are working ready, and if it is integrated off the chain data, and that's the time I believe we should be able to go and build on the blockchain related, trusted, independent, distributed network. With that, we'll introduce myself. I think I have been Anthony, founder and CEO of Entos Technology, 30 years in IT, mainly work with workflow, data integration, artificial intelligence, data API integrations kind of a thing. And we also have Randy. Randy, if you're here, just stand. Yeah, Randy is here, who is a maritime expert, who brings, if I'm a technology expert, Randy brings the domain expert to us to build the product like this. And we have, the order is in terms of the incorporation order, not in any other form. So we have our office in Singapore, and we have our R&D center in India, and last 2 years back, we came to UAE as well. With that, I think my presentation ends, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony. Would you like to take a seat
Sure.
while we have some of our friends in the audience who perhaps might want to ask a question or two? Anybody interested in finding out more about very innovative name? Why pomfret? Pomfret's a fish, right?
Yes, it is.
So you never told us about that.
Yeah, that is called process optimized marine freight.
Process optimizing.
Marine freight.
Hey, okay.
Oh,
So-
but by the way, when we started that name, it was for a fish, and then we tried to get the meaning to limit to the marine.
Well done.
That's a honest answer.
Okay. So while the audience sort of gets their thoughts, I put in a question of my own. Yeah. Now you described to us the benefits, all right. But are there any inhibitors that prevent maritime players to adopt a platform such as yours?
That's a good question. One of the challenges whenever I meet shipping agencies or any kind of a maritime players, the fear of data, sharing the data fear is the utmost inhibitor for them to come on board.
Sharing of data.
Sharing of data is the fear. That fear is the first thing which is the inhibitor, I see it. But I want to tell only one thing. If your business account is on cloud, why not your business? Think about that. You may have a different view on that one. The second thing what I see is that the standardization, again, right? For example, if I'm a freight forward or shipping agency, can I have all of them in one place, right? If I have to work with one shipping liner, they have their own system. If I go with another shipping line, they have their own system. If I work with port one, I have to work with other system. So how do I make sure that I have to enter duplicate entries? So the integration is another problem, correct? So that is another thing what I see it. And third, affordability, because some
affordability.
Affordability. Right. That's another barrier what I could see it, right? For example, if you build one system for a small and medium enterprise, it's very hard.
Yeah.
And also they need an expert to bring them. And we are trying to solve these three in PompFreight.cloud. I think that's a good question.
Yeah. All right. Interesting. When I look at the audience, I think about ship owners, and I see Mr. Sohail sitting there. Anthony just mentioned about reluctance to share data. Is that something which would bother a ship owner, Sohail? Oh, you do. So there's a mic coming up. You can keep talking. It starts on its own.
Hello. Yes. What you asked the question? We know we don't have any issue.
Right.
We share our data.
Right.
And very freely, if he is interested, we can share with him also. No issue. Then Tony is most welcome. He knows me very well.
You need to speak.
Anthony knows me very well. If
Okay.
he wants any data to be shared, I can share with him.
Right.
I can ask my technical managers also to share with him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in general, do you feel that people overall, industry have the fear
Yes, I
of-
agree
yeah.
with you. Some government companies, of course, I will not name the companies,
Yes.
which are national companies, they do not like to share their data. Maybe they've got their own HR system or their QHSE, they don't allow them to share the data.
Of course, gentlemen, it would be what type of data? Sharing technical information, not a big deal, right? But sharing commercial related information might be the reluctance.
Reluctant.
You are right, and nobody will share the commercial data because it's a trading business. They don't want to lose their trade with the other charters or all this thing, so they want to keep very low profile on that.
Yeah, understandably so. Any hands going up here? Before, I'm a guy who likes to hear my own voice, so I'll be happy to ask question number 2. That's because nobody else is asking, sir. Now,
Yeah, that's a question.
oh, there you go. Bill 2.
I'm Kevin Moran from Timor Marine. We're a marine technology company. And just what you're saying there about people sharing data, it's actually, I understand the commercial data, but also the technology data is quite hard to get out of shipping companies because they don't realize how easy it is to share the data. They assume you've got to go on board and you've got to do some fairly in-depth black box connections and stuff to get that data, and it's all there.
Yes.
And we're working now with a couple of companies on fuel efficiency. By just looking at different data, they've been sold a black box that will give them their engine performance data.
Right.
Now we're coupling that up with their stability, with their loading condition, with the weather, and we're then providing information back to them that allows them to optimize their voyage and reduce their fuel consumption, and not just by saying, okay, slow down. It's trying to find something a little bit more technical, a bit more in depth. But yeah, our biggest problem is convincing owners the data is there, just let us have access to it, and it's easy enough to get to. So I share your pain in the in the commercial sense, but I also see it as well in the technical sense, where but the owners just don't know or are too busy to figure out how to share the data.
Yes, and perhaps more than the reluctance of sharing data, it's the concern on the security of that data.
That's correct. That invariably, that's what it is. Yeah, that's correct.
Bill too.
Hi, good afternoon. Bill Tu here from Trishna Petroleum. Just
You guys need to speak a little louder in the mic. Trust me, I don't know about you. I'm struggling.
See, very simply, okay, technical data, as you say, anybody can share. But as I am a trader, okay, I export something from here to India. I know who is my client. Okay, when it's go online, but today offline everything is safe. You know, I know who is the client. We never share our BL copy to our competitors. So when it's go online, how safe we are as a trader? How you save our data?
Yes, I think today there are many technologies are available in terms of security. Let's say we are doing the mobile transactions, bank, right? We have come to the two-factor authentication, data encryption, many things are in place. So it is the question of who is behind the data. So that comes in. So who is Pamphlet.cloud, right? But for example, you don't have that question when you submit the data to TP World Port Community System or Makta in Abu Dhabi ports, right? We don't question that because the person behind or the entity behind that, you have to believe the security. But what all I'm trying to say is that the technologies are there to protect majority of the data today because majority applications are running on cloud. So no need to fear the lot. I think what we have to look at it, and we are when we are creating the platform, that is the utmost priority what we try to keep it when it comes to the data.
It is possible to hackable because clouds is hackable. Clouds can be hacked.
What's the question?
The cloud can be hacked.
No, hacking, see, we will try to avoid in every mechanism of hacking. Hacking happens even though in many other systems, but we will try to put as much as possible. Very recently, even maritime logistics has been hacked. But what is the impact of that after that? They were able to control that and go on. So nobody will be able to say system cannot be hacked or nobody will try to hack. But what we will all try to do is that we will monitor the auditing of the request, what it is coming. And if it is something like what, for example, every request to come to our Pamphlet.cloud, we put it in the audit trial and see is there any unnecessary data coming from unknown resources. And we have certain different security mechanism to detect the fraud or unwanted requests and try to stop that one. And that is some of the technologies what we try to implement to prevent the attacks or unwanted access to the platform.
So as you said, the banks, you say banks are going with OTP, one-time
Correct,
passwords
exactly.
or for personal password.
Correct.
So if something like that, yes,
Yes.
it is protectable.
Correct.
But to accept that, I don't think all the traders will easily accept that. A few of them, maybe I.
Yeah, but I think time is the question, I believe. Technology adoption today is a must. You see in one of the vertical integration very rapidly happening is in the maritime industry, right? A ship owner owning the port terminal operators and port terminal operators giving all vertical logistic operations or supply chains, correct? So this vertical integration will happen whether you like it or not, right? But so the key question is that if you're a logistic player, how do I make use of the technology for my business? I think that's a fundamental question we need to answer. Should I worry about the data what I worry, or should I worry about the business what I want to go? So that what I'm trying to say is that a lot of vertical integration is happening, and technology adoption is the key primary factor for every business to relook at it and strategize your business.
May I say something?
Please.
Like you know about the AIS
Yes.
on the ships. Now you tell me, if you go into Google Internet now, you put any name of the ship, you will find out with the AIS information where is the ship.
Okay.
So this information cannot be hidden. This is what the big powers after Trade Center went down, World Trade Center, they brought this AIS in. When AIS can give all the information from where the ship loaded, the crew list is there. The pilots have got the instruments on their launches, small boats, speed boats. They can always know which ship is coming in and when to attack. And where is the distance, what is the distance. That's why we have got this business going on, armed guards. And armed guard is just a racket, what we owners are paying really. Because I can tell you one thing, if you want to book a high-speed boat from Japan, you will have a delivery in about 3 to 4 months, but pilots gets in 10 days. How? So this is the big question, big politics going on in cyber security and all this thing. Anyway, just want to share this.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
understood.
thank you.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Some practical aspects. So, with your platform, Pomfret.cloud, is it removing some of the intermediaries?
Yeah, definitely not, to be frank with you, because if you look at the overall the players, be it freight forwarders or carriers or ship managers, ship liners, or shipping agencies, they all create a value in the overall maritime supply chain. For example, if I'm a ship owner or carrier, I cannot open agency across the globe, all the ports.
Yeah.
So shipping agency role still there.
Right.
Similarly, for a freight forwarder, if I'm an importer and exporter, I can't deal with all the documents what every port customs is looking for, right?
Right.
So every player has add the value in the overall maritime logistic. So we don't have to fear that the platform will remove their layer. I really seriously doubt that. But what I'm saying is that adapting the technology, I think maritime is a very, very infancy. I think that we need to move up towards the technology adoption. But I don't fear that this will remove the intermediate.
No one's going to go on the streets.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So I see that everybody's more than happy to subscribe to your service. So I think you just need to go out there and now book the orders.
Sure then.
Anthony, thank you very
Thank
much
you
for
very
your
much.
presentation and for sharing your
Thank you very much.
valuable platform. Yeah? All the best. Right, let's move on to pitch. We're going to have voting now, right? So I hope everybody can take out their phones, and there's going to be a voting now, which we request you all to participate. I think question number 1 itself will put us into those who are relevant, or the topic is relevant to those of you. So that was fast. Did you guys all get the QR code? Yeah. Right, so the first question is on a scale 1 to 5. How relevant is the pitch to your business? And we have 57% which says relevant, and 29 says, I would say it's quite relevant, it's somewhat relevant, and 8% says very relevant. Yeah, there it is, and not at all. So, so let's say 38% of the people, or 38 plus 6, 42, 44, and it's building up now, 45 already. Yeah. Okay, on an average, you would say 50% of the pitch was relevant to 50% of the people in the room. Right. A little more now, it's creeping up. Okay. How about question number 2? Please rate on a scale of 1 to 5 how much value, commercial or operational, you think pitch number 1 will bring to your business. I should look here. Craning my neck. This is called rubber necking. Right, bloody hell. Okay, look at that. We have very useful is 16%, 11% somewhat useful, 32% are on the edge, and okay. Well, I would say, again, we are at a little over 50% of the people find it moderately to very useful. All right. Can we see how many are voting, to be honest? Okay, let's see, check that. I think there's a number on the top right. Yeah, gotcha. I know, sorry. Okay, please rate the readiness for implementation, you believe, as you perceive it on a scale of 1 to 5, yeah? 100, wow, that is robust. It's ready to roll out, well, rapidly distributing that, encouraging 100% to already 50 to 13, which is 63, and, okay. So Anthony, if you're watching the 18 people in the room voting, then most of them believe that your solution, the lights are hitting me in the face. Your solution is ready to be rolled if I have to make a yes and no decision, yeah? So I hope that's been insightful. I believe that's the last question. Yep, so Anthony, yep, you're taking pictures. So once again, thank you very much. I hope the results are, they are what they are, right? Thank you all, 19 of you, for participating in this interactive session. So please, I presume you got the hang of it now, so the next one might be a little more, we'll have maybe double that, 38 people sitting here. Speaking of which, let's move on to our second pitch for this afternoon. And that's got to do with the CMT Yard project by Frank Kaertink. Kaertink, who's the founder and director for CMT International. The CMT solution enables circularity. By automating the entire ship dismantling process, CMT has cracked the problem. The CMT solution combines multiple proven technologies that are improved by CMT to be applied to ship dismantling for the first time. This creates a unique process that brings a ship back to its original elements that can be reused at the highest value level. The main output being virgin quality scrap steel, which is a critical enabler for sustainable steel production. We were having a discussion offline, and Frank informed me that the UAE produces about 2 million tons of steel annually, and ship recycling can produce 1 million. Yeah, so I'm sure he'll talk more about that. But when I read this line, then I just remembered a very interesting conversation. The automation ensures safety and circularity and a throughput of more than 50 ships per year on a fully operational yard. Because of that, the business case for a CMT yard becomes highly positive. To know more about that, Mr. Kaertink, may I invite you on the stage and enlighten us, please. Welcome on board, sir.
Thank you. The presenter
The presenter is here.
is here.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Where's the pointer? That's this one?
The pointer is this one. Correct.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Frank Geerdink. I'm a Dutch national and an entrepreneur all my life long. And I'm here to explain to you what the CMT International yard process means to the industry, because this will be groundbreaking. It's an absolute novelty, and it takes us to a world where what we have seen in all the years, let me see, which one is it? Yeah. This is what we know about shipbreaking. It might have become a little bit better over the years, but we know how it's being done, where it's being done, who are profiting from it, and who are suffering from it. And I'm standing in front of you as a speaker for technology, but most of all for human rights, for human safety, and safety to the environment. This is what the CMT yard looks like. This is the core of the business. Imagine a ship is a loaf of bread. This loaf of bread is being cut by an endless loop wire. This wire is about 50 millimeters thick, and this wire is cutting through the ship's body regardless of what is in it, because we have a fully enclosed area, which is a leak-free area, and all the containments of the ship, whether liquid or solid materials, will be flushed off by 10,000 tons of water every hour. This water is 100% being recycled. We don't use water, we generate water. I'll come back I'll come back to that later. Here, the slice is being taken off, and this slice is being cut into segments, into blocks, and the blocks are being processed. We are doing this with a ship on dry land because ships scrapping over water or in a dry dock are either highly dangerous and polluting or have a terrible business case. This is the process as it works. The ship comes in after we have purchased it in a serious system where we determine whether the ship is best suited for us. The ship is being lifted out of the water by a submersible pontoon, and then we go to the Alpha unit. The Alpha unit is cutting off one slice of 300 tons in 2 hours' time. This block is then being cut by the Beta unit in 6 segments. And these 6 segments are being cut into blocks again, that's over here. And these blocks measure about the size of this screen, 6 by 6 by 6 meters. And these blocks are entering the ABP, that stands for the Automated Block Processing. In the first station, robotic arms will strip the steel structure free of whatever is being attached to the steel. Fully automated, we don't even have to write software to see what's in there because a LiDAR recognizing system is looking at the block itself, is recognizing the materials and is stripping it off. After all materials are being stripped off, it's going to station 2. In station 2, all paint, marine growth, anti-foulings, carpets, whatever is attached to the steel surface is blown off. And in station 3, the entire steel block is being cut up by lasers to tiles of a minimum size of 60 by 60 centimeters and a maximum size of 100 by 150 meters. And the loading unit is taking care that these plates are being loaded into an STB. That's a standard transport box, which is half high, 20 feet container, always filled with 30 tons of steel of one single steel quality. This is very important. Nowhere in the scrapping industry there is a machine or a system that can take apart a ship and select it upon the quality of the steel and produce boxes that every time have a 30-ton content of one single type of steel. This enhances the price that we can get for this steel, but most of all, in the production of green steel, it's very important for the steel smelters that there is no coverage on the steel, neither paint, neither rubbers, no whatsoever. The steel should be clean. And this is how it works. This is how we cut this ship of a size anything between 140 meters long and 400 meters long. Simply because of the fact that the larger the ship, the higher the rate of repetition is and the easier it is to cut it, to process it. We have an upper wire which is cutting from the top to the bottom, about halfway, and we have a bottom wire which is cutting about halfway from the underside and the bottom of the ship upwards. This is a tensioned wire. It's an endless loop wire with a size of about 50 millimeters, and it's cutting through the ship like butter. This has been tested on a scale that by the end of the year we will do a full-size test. And this is how the slice looks. The entire ship is placed on bogies. These are hydraulically lifted, and we move the ship forward into the section where we cut the slice of the ship. We have the option to either 300 tons or 600 tons. We allow ourselves 300 tons in 2 hours or 600 tons in 4 hours time. That is the sequence of the entire process by which a ship is being converted from a ship into steel plates. This also means that a ship of 200 meters is being processed in just 90 hours. We are a 24/7 operating company. This is how a slice is being lifted away from the place where we cut it free from the hull of a ship. This is a very important picture because here you see the ditches. We are pouring down on each of the cutting equipments together 10,000 tons of water an hour. In the beginning, water was seen as our enemy, and we have changed into making water our friend, because the water is transporting all the debris, all the small parts, and we have some water guns, 3 nozzle, 10 bar, that blow away all the equipment that is falling out. And if there's equipment which is too heavy, we have miniaturized electronic robots, a kind of bulldozer, that are pushing these materials also into the ditch. This is the entire sequence. Here we cut the slice. Here the slice is laid down and the segment is being lifted off. We are cutting the slice in 6 segments. That means each segment has a weight of about 50 tons. Then these segments are being put in the gamma unit, and this gamma unit is cutting this segment into 10 blocks. The maximum size of the ship is 60 meters wide and 60,000 lightweight tonnage. This is the process graphically shown. This is the station number 1 where the stripping takes place. Then the block is going by conveyor to station number 2. On station number 2, we hydroblast every inch, every square inch of this block clean from paint, from rubbers, from any material that is attached to the steel structure. And on station 3, we have very powerful lasers that are cutting at a speed of about 12 meters per minute in thick steel, and in 14 minutes time the block has been diminished in plate only. Being circular means that we have to take this very serious. One of the first objectives that we have, and which in fact is mandatory, is we should not remove waste from the yard. We went to the chemistry professors, we went to the universities to see how can we do this, and this is what came out. This is where the ship is being cut apart. There will be rainfall. This rainfall is collected together with the water that we apply, the 10,000 tons an hour. And this will take all the debris down the line, and it's being separated, liquids and solids, in one special unit. All the wood, paper, rubber, plastic, paint, marine growth is going into the system where it's converted by a pyrolysis conversion unit into fuel. And all the metals and the IHM products that we can separate, we separate, or the IHM also go into the pyrolysis unit. Because toxic materials you can simply eliminate by using the pyrolysis process of up to 800 degrees, and they fall apart in their elementary parts. In this way we have an enclosed system, but this also shows the earning system that we have, because we are producing about 1.1 million tons of clean steel from 1.3 million tons of ship that we process. And the entire business case is a system that relies on both sending out highest quality of steel with a known quality in a very high volume. It's margin times volumes that make the business case. We are even offering the Indian prices to the ship owners to ensure that they will come to a CMT yard, because otherwise we will not have business. They will turn again to India, and there we are. So I'll get back to that later. This is a very graphical production of where the waste is being generated, what we do with all the pieces, and how we in the end process everything that leaves us only with 0.5% or less of material that cannot be processed anymore. For such an endeavor, where you invest a huge amount of money, you need to have supply of ships. Well, I can tell you there's a tsunami waiting to happen in the shipping industry when it comes to end-of-life ships. The prediction is that, as you can see here, currently we are in 21. I don't see the pointer here. And there are several institutes that we have requested to produce the figures of how to project and how to look at the future. And this is what the future shows, that this is a very moderate estimation of the numbers. Some of them go into the 4,000s a year. Some are in the 2,000, so there's quite a remarkable wide spread, but in the end of the day, it will be about 3 to 4 times as much as we have these days. And this is how it looks like. It's an investment of about 350 million euros. You might say that's a hell of a lot of money, but look at the earnings. From the steel and all the revenue material that we are selling, we are producing total annual revenue of about 700 million euros. And this is in euros, not in dollars. That means we have an EBITDA of 90 million a year, and we are calculating here with 500 euros per ton for the ship as a price that we need to pay for purchasing it. The CMT technology contributes in a way that we only use known technology, so there's nothing to be disputed about will it work, can it work, how does it work. All the technologies that we deploy are known and are highly active for many decades in many industries already. Like I said, we have the 1.1 million tons of big steel, which is the clean steel that we sell to the steel companies. It's 100% homogeneous with a very high density. Normally, scrap metal is about 800 kilos per cubic meter. In our instance, it's about 4,000 kilos per cubic meter. That makes transportation a lot cheaper by a 5-fold. This is one of the things where we save money, which generates earnings again. We have about 35,000 metric tons of non-ferrous materials, and there are many basic materials and energy sold to neighboring industries, all in the picture of circularity. And in the end, we have a electricity production from the waste, which is about 80 megawatt hours. So every hour, our system produces 80 megawatts of electrical power. Next to that, we also have hydrogen, which is extracted from the pyrolysis process. This is the development of a yard in realization planning. It takes about 12 months for the design and prep for construction, the procurement and construction of the CMT yard, The operations start in year 1, where we will start with only 50% of the technical throughput capacity, and after year 2, we will be on a 24/7 operation. This is how the system looks in terms that when you are interested in your country and you want to be initiator, we will cooperate with you, and CMT will deliver the technologies, the equipment. We will take care of the ship purchasing, which we do in cooperation with Sea to Cradle, and we are going into the finance, commercial, and management support to this individual yard. That can be a yard in the Middle East, and currently we are working on 3 yards. One is in Belgium next to a big steel plant, one is in Rotterdam, and one is in the Tokyo Bay. Here you can see that we are cooperating with these local initiators. Also, the local and international investors are contributing to the financing package to establish this CMT yard somewhere in a country that is so clever to do this. I thank you on behalf of our partners, which are Stork, which is Damen Shipyards, which is ArcelorMittal, which is KCI Engineers, and I am happy to take your questions.
Can we have the mic there, please? Fantastic, Frank.
Your presentation was excellent, but I would like to ask one thing. It's all about steel. When you are doing a ship breaking, what about the hazardous material? Hazardous material, how do you take care of those?
Yes. Can I have the presentation again, please?
Would you like to take a seat?
No, I'd rather stand. I can sit all day long if I want to. The asbestos is recognized in the process when we purchase a ship. Where is the asbestos? How is it contained, or how is it applied in the ship? It's up to us whether to accept the ship and purchase it, yes or no. In the very first years, we will be very stringent in looking for the asbestos, because when a ship is being purchased, the ship will be received at the CMT yard at the preparation quay. It will stay there for about 10 days, and during these 10 days, one of the things that we are removing is the asbestos, which is found and which is located at the places where the wire will cut through. We are very rigorous. We are indiscriminately cutting through the ships, whether they are beds, whether they are televisions, whether there's, doesn't matter. Speed is of the essence, and OPEX is of the essence, and environmental awareness. And this asbestos is being retrieved from those places where the wire will cut through the ships. This asbestos is being handled by our specialist asbestos team. The asbestos is being gathered, and the asbestos is being eliminated. Because of the fact we have so much electricity available, we have a special oven which is heating it up to 1520 degrees, and it eliminates the asbestos back into silica, into aluminium oxide, and into small residues, all non-toxic.
So you said earlier that we don't take the ship if it has got a hazardous material. You will not take that ship.
Well, for instance, we are not looking for problems when you have a fully asbestos blasted ship. You have these claddings in engine rooms and what have you. That's not the kind of ship where we will start with, because we have to learn also.
And also, do you believe, you trust the certificate which is given by the third party? But I have noticed some certificates are baseless, useless.
Yes.
It's just a money-making thing, certificates. Yeah. Many owners are wasting their money, and now you are doing your own test on
Yes,
this asbestos?
Absolutely, because we have a number of experts in our team who have educated us exactly in the way you're telling us. So we are following our own inspections, we are gathering the data, and then we decide whether we will purchase the ship, yes or no, because it's up to us. In the beginning years, we will take the ships which are easiest for us, but it's very important to note that we will tell to all ship owners, don't clean your ships upon delivery. We will clean the ship because we like the ship to be as dirty as possible, because then we are getting free energy, and this is helping our business case. And it helps you to get rid of your waste, whereas normally this waste will be cleaned, what, in Panama, Bolivia, Algeria, any place, but it's either dumped in the desert or dumped in the jungle. And what does the planet have from this? Nothing. We need to work on solutions.
Is that the IHM certification you are referring to, yes? Right.
Yes. And this accounts for many other IHM items. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, good question.
Anybody, feel free. You're not being shot.
There are no silly questions,
Yes,
only silly answers.
fully agree.
How different is your CMT yard from the beaches of Chittagong?
It couldn't be more different than that. Quite simple. I have to tell you something in all honesty. One of the reasons we've started this, one of the mindsets when we started this is, listen, there are 600,000 people having their bread and livelihood from being active on the beaches. Now, if we smart asses come up with a solution, what are these people going to do if we have a solution that would take away the work? And we said to ourselves, no, we're going to do it in a dual system. We will develop the CMT yard, and the core piece of this, and this is where I want to go to, is this. That's the alpha unit, this one. And we will put this one on a pair of floaters that you can deploy, including the energy from generators which are there, on a floating system on the beaches. Because I'm not naive thinking that when we come up with this that the beaching will be gone. No way. There will always be people surpassing the laws. But it's very important that we eliminate the most dangerous job there is in shipbreaking, which is this person going inside a ship with a blowtorch, no breathing protection, maybe a filter, but what's a filter against the pollutions that are inside the ship when you are burning it? Not to mention losing track of where you are, because when you're all smoked, inundated, you don't know what's in and out. So getting rid of that most dangerous job and keeping the livelihood of those people on the beaches safe is one of the promises that we have made, that we will endeavor into, and we will make it happen.
Leroy,
Hi. Very interesting technology. You kind of oversimplified the alpha unit in your presentation. So for the naive in the audience, can you tell us, is it just sheer strength or sheer force that you use on those coils to cut through the ship, or what I mean, is that a patented technology that you don't want to talk about? Or?
No, excellent that you make this remark. Have you ever used a handsaw cutting a piece of wood? Now, if it's plywood, there's no use in putting this handsaw parallel to the wood and start making the movement. It won't cut. Whether you grow gray hair, it won't cut. You have to have an angle. Now, we have found out that the system of using these wires in these sizes, and we're talking about one wire here has a length of 245 meters, because it's going up and down this tower in order to compensate when the wire comes down. The length stays the same, but the position is changing. And this is exactly where your question comes in. We are very gentle in putting a downforce onto the wire, because a good wire is cutting it by itself. That's the same with this handsaw. Maybe you know it. If you do have the rhythm of cutting, the cutting feels like it's doing it all by itself. And when that happens, you have speed, you have minimum degradation of your wire, and you have the highest effectivity of the wire. And that's what we're striving for, and we have built in a huge number of sensors that are controlling the process and that are pinpointing to the optimal form between speed, downforce, and pulling force.
So is wire another term for a serrated blade?
It's
just
an
a plain
endless loop wire, 50 millimeters, and it has tungsten carbon on it, and it will last for about 100 hours.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry?
If you remember the Russian submarine, which was Kursk, she was sunk, and they cut with a wire, same thing saw.
No. The Kursk wire that has cut the Russian submarine was a straight wire that was fixed to 2 winches, and it was moved side by side with 50 tons of pulling force. They did have plenty of time. We don't have time. We are in a hurry because volume times margin is our business case. So we need to cut through very fast, but very efficiently. So it's an endless loop wire, and it's moving at a certain speed, which makes it most effective for the kind of ship that we are processing. Yeah.
Noted.
I have a question here on Slido, which we can't show because the presentation is still on, so I'm not sure if you're still going to need it. The question is there any CMT yard currently in operation?
No, it's not yet in operation. We are preparing for getting it into operations, and that will take about a few years, but we have the first 3 customers there in a process that we are agreeing with them how to do it, when to do it. Gentleman in the back.
Hi. You spoke about 10,000 metric tons of water. Where is the water coming from? I was not clear on that.
We have 2 options. If there's plenty of fresh water available, because we can't use salt water due to the properties of salt water, which is very negative for the cutting process. The fresh water, if it's available, we simply take it in once. Anything between 250 and 300,000 tons we have in basins. This is circulated at a rate of 10,000 tons an hour because the water has to get time in order to settle and release the debris which is caught in the water, the light debris. The heavy debris is of course gone in a very early stage, and the rain will replenish most of the dissipated and evaporized water. If that's not the case, we have a reverse osmosis unit in the plant, in the water treatment plant, which will provide us fresh water if we need this, if it's not available from any source, any exterior source. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The last question from the class act.
Just a sort of clarification. So I understand that, just for clarification, you are totally depend on the wire as the cutter, or also the weight of the ship after a while. When you start to cut it, the weight will help to get it much faster for cutting.
The weight will help?
The weight of the ship.
No, the weight of the ship remains the weight because the wire is cutting through the ship.
But after a while,
the weight of the ship is to no influence to the cutting process. The ship simply sits there like a duck.
Like a duck.
And it doesn't do anything.
So there is no dependent on that after a while, but because of the cross section will be less and it can help to get it cut.
No, we will support the structure of the ship because the bow and the aft have a very peculiar shape, and we put supports in order to keep it upright. Same for the deck house. We are cutting with the same wire vertically, but we also cut horizontally. So we slice also the deck house but we lift them off section by section of 300 tons and remove this. So the process is equal to the ship's body and to the deck house. The engine, for instance, is being cut clean. The ship is cut away around the main engine. Then, if we have a purchaser for the engine, it will be sold. If we don't have a purchaser for the engine, we will seal off the engine compartment as a whole. We will pour in liquefied nitrogen, leave it for 5 minutes, and then somebody gets to hammer it once and it will fall apart in God knows how many pieces. These pieces also have one steel quality, and this is being delivered to the steel market. Yes.
Very good, thank you. I can see that we are a little bit behind time, so Joanna, may I request you to put up the Slido voting, please? May I request you all to whip off your phones and give us a little feedback on what Mr. Kerdink has presented today.
Frank it is, eh?
Frank it is, but you know, I'm testing myself. So, here we go. I hope you all have the QR code, and is everybody got the QR code? Anybody struggling with that? Okay. Yep. There you go. That's Evo getting the code. Right, we can now move on to, we already have a voting. On a scale of 1 to 5, how relevant is this pitch, Frank's pitch on the CMT solution to your business? And I can see that it's like 60% of the people, which is building up slowly, 15, 18 now. Right, nice, 23. It was 19 the last time. Frank, I hope you're taking note that some 55% of the audience finds your pitch relevant to their business. Okay, we are steady at 25. Can we move on to question 2, please? Thank you, Joanna. Please rate on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the least, how much value, commercial or operational, you think the CMT yard would bring to your business. Yes? Gamal, are we going too fast? Or are you all right? Okay. Right, 50% out of the 22 have voted. It's bringing value. 30, yeah, that's 50%. 29 are somewhat on the fence. Okay, so you have, oh, there was a result. And lastly, please rate the readiness of implementation of the CMT yard as you perceive it on a scale of 1 to 5. Wow, that's 24 and 14 is almost 50, and yeah, you got 70%. Over 70%. 39 and 13, 42, yep. 65. There you go, an overall score of 3.1, I presume that's out of 5, so if you got to go by that percentage, Frank, I think you're ready to roll. I hope those statistics bring some value to you, Frank, as much as the value that hopefully Frank has brought to all of us. So let's join me in a round of applause to Frank for sharing the CMT yard solution. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate being here. And I hope you will have some very good days today and tomorrow again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And you too. Okay, good. Let's move in for the last pitch of today. While ship owners are required to invest in energy efficiency technologies and measures, on the one hand, including propulsion improvement devices, On the other, ship owners have to rely on, they have to have a sustainable and a profitable business. There are various types of energy efficiency measures available. Some of them have a very obvious savings potential, while some of them need further investigation into the feasibility of the measure being applied to a ship-specific case. What is indisputable is the fact that when a ship runs through water, there is resistance between the steel hull and the seawater. And if this resistance can be minimized, then the fuel consumption can be reduced and consequently emissions to the atmosphere. And that is why we have anti-fouling coatings. There are various types of anti-fouling coatings with varying levels of anti-friction properties. What we're going to hear now is a true novel breakthrough in anti-fouling, or more specifically fouling release technology, which yields energy savings and a favorable return on investment. And to tell us more about this fouling release technology, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Simon Visser, who is the Marine Director for PPG EMEA region. Simon, welcome to Dubai and on board.
Thanks, Nikhil. Excellent. Okay, Nikhil gave you the short version. I give you the long version of this story. Yeah, first of all, I'm an engineer, so I'm quite impressed about the previous speaker's subject. I can't wait to see it in Rotterdam. So if it's ready, let me know. I come over and see it myself. In the next about 20 minutes, I would hope to entertain you with my both personal and also professional story. It's a story that went from vision to value. Before I do, I would like to introduce my company. My company is PPG. We are a paint and coatings company. So what we do is paint any object around you. Our job to do is to protect and beautify the world. How is it relevant to you? Well, the laptop you're working on, PPG coatings. The iPhone you're looking at, PPG coatings. The car you're driving, especially if it's a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, PPG coatings. The plane you flew in with, PPG coatings. And I hope the ship you are owning and operating has PPG coatings too. If not, I have to talk to my colleagues to beef up their game. So that's PPG, this is me, I'm a paint guy, and I would like to take you through my story. Let's see, how's next? I guess this one. Sorry. So my story is one from vision to value. So my name is Simon Visser. I work in PPG for 26 years. That's more than half my life. I started very young. This story is from vision to value and is very relevant for today's shipping agenda. First of all, I started in the 90s in the company. And back in the 90s, we developed a vision. And we said, well, someday fuel savings will become important in shipping. Also, we said sustainability one day will be high on the agenda in shipping. And most of all, we thought about the solution, the ultimate solution, being non-biocidal silicon fouling release. That was our vision more than 25 years ago. Then, of course, we underpinned the importance of shipping. Shipping is key to the world. World trade, luckily, and a good thing after Corona, after the lockdowns, is still in growth mode. Good for all of us. But shipping, we know, comes at a price for fuel and a price for emission. This is like running the numbers on the left. And we said also about 25 years ago, this will get one day a lot of attention. And actually, as we know now, that day has arrived. That day is right now. On the path to green shipping and decarbonization, IMO is guiding us. They're putting legislations in place and also guidelines, calculation methods to comply. And we all know, of course, about EEXI and CII, and this is just a simple way for me to explain the difference. It's a theoretical energy label, and it is your carbon intensity while shipping goods. So what about the solution? And this solution, like Nikhil was introducing, is about the hull paints. Of course, it's not the overall total endgame solution for everything. It is part of the overall solution that we can offer as a company. So when I started in PPG back in the 90s, I was very much captured, and you can see it here. I was starting in the 90s, and I was starting in research and development. And one of the things that caught my eye and attention was silicon field and release paints. I thought this was really a good idea to solve the issues that we were foreseeing for the future, the vision. So I started to work on it in the lab for more than a decade. And while I did face many differences of opinions. People back then, 25 years ago, did not believe in this. They said, you're crazy, ain't gonna happen. But I think that changed a lot today. So when I was working on it back in 2009, my company came back to me and said, well, you're not giving up, you're persistent, so why don't you go into marketing to tell everyone about it? So that's what I did. I went to marketing in 2009 and I was telling everyone about it. And meanwhile, I was launching the products into the market, like you see here, that I had been developing myself in the lab. Then like a decade later, or more than a decade, last year, they called me back again and said, okay, you're not giving up, you're telling everyone, so why don't you go to sales now, so you can sell it to everyone? So that's what I do, and here I am. So why is this relevant? What's happening around this? So what about value? Now IMO, this is an MEPC document from 2014 already. IMO is prioritizing solutions to comply to EXI and to help your CII. They also prioritize in terms of A, B, and C categories. And category A is a category that helps to improve your speed power curve. And one of the ways to improve your speed power curve is silicon field and release on the hull, as you can see in the underpins. The next thing, Classification Society come in. This is ABS, and they list a big option menu of what kind of solution you can pick and choose and apply on your ship to improve EXI and CII. And what they also calculated themselves is the shortest return on investment is by applying silicon paints on the hull. It's not the only solution, but it is the solution with the shortest return on investment. And then customers. Customers see this, they hear this, and they recognize this, and they start using it. And we see a big uptake in the application of SigmaGlide, of silicon. Of course, what we do as silicon, and I know there will be a question, is subject to mechanical damage. That is a mistake we made in the past. So today we apply anti-fouling on the boot-up area where you have mechanical damage, and on the permanently immersed verticals and flats we apply silicons. So you get the EXI improvements, you get the CII upgrades, but you don't get the problem of mechanical damage. That will be the anti-fouling to deal with that. Also our customers, we were talking about the first speaker, sharing of data. This customer was very happy to share the outcome and the data. They actually published it last year in Coatings World, their improvements on CII by installing this system. So then we go a bit into the detail here of CII modeling. This is, of course, a theoretical approach. It's following the CFD calculation according to the ITTC methodology. So when you put the low friction factors in of a silicon paint, you can actually improve your CII rating significantly and prolonged. Of course, CII is a progressive scale. Every year it gets more strict, like a couple of percentage points. So you need to have a robust solution that takes care of it. And here you can see on the top, it's a silicon application. On the bottom, it's a premium anti-fouling application. And what you can see is that you can gain a lot of CII points if you go to silicon. Not only for 1 year, but actually for a decade. I will talk later about the durability of the system. This is one way of modeling that advantage. The other way is to do a sensitivity analysis. So if you take a ship, left silicon, right anti-fouling, and you do a sensitivity analysis based on ship speed, basically what you get out is more robustness, more flexibility in your CAI depending on ship speed when you apply silicon. Now if you add everything up and you say, okay, what do I need to do? What is my speed if I include silicon compared to anti-fouling? What maximum speed can I have to remain a C rating? And what you can see in the numbers, that silicon is increasing that speed flexibility by about 0.5, 0.9 knots. Of course, depending on speed, depending on ship type, but it's about 0.5, 0.9 knots of improvement that you can go maximum to remain a C classification, a C rating. That's of course modeling. Now we go into real life measuring. Okay, getting data also for me, I mean it's not my ship, it's not my data, so I need to ask ship owners when they install it to share those data, and some of those ship owners actually do. On this one we also installed a device, a hull monitoring device from Forza Technology. We have a cooperation as a company with a specialist on data, Forza, so they can install data loggers. They gather, clean, analyze the data for us, and we get the outcome in terms of a speed loss graph. Okay, this is fresh, just beginning, but what you can see, actually in the first year, not a speed loss, but a 3% speed gain by applying silicon on verticals and flats. 3% speed gain versus the original sea trials. So that's a big step improvement in the initial year. Also we are plotting, of course, the history of the vessel, as you can see right down. And it has been idle also for an extensive period of 29 days during these measurements in Brazil. Now we know Brazil, we know what it does, even though in that same period we remain the 3% speed gain on this vessel with silicon. Then I was talking about durability. Of course, if you avoid applying silicon on the boot top, you do anti-fouling boot top, silicon vertical, flat bottom, the system basically will not be touched by anything. You do not have mechanical damage. On top of that, it's biocide free, not leaching anything, not polishing, so the system will stay intact on the hull. And what we have here is data from one of our ship owners, our friendly customer, who's sharing this data to show, okay, what for this ship owner is a difference in consecutive dry dockings in paint consumption. And what you see is that initially, if you apply silicon, the next consecutive dry dockings, you only have to do touch-up repair. So this customer is one of our best customers that we are not selling any paint to. Why? Because they only do touch-up repair. So we are continuously looking for more ships, and the good thing is we are quite successful recently, of course helped by IMO. This is a wrap-up slide basically about SigmaGlide. I have one other topic to show you. Yeah, one thing I didn't mention, and it was I think also mentioned by the first speaker, people are looking more and more into sustainability, of course. I mean, shipping wants to go into carbon neutral, but also we want to make sure, I mean, now the sustainability report is before the financial report in many ship owners' yearly report. What is important in sustainability is emission. Of course, CO2, but also to the air, but also to the water. And this system, silicon, has no emission. So we apply it, there's no biocide, there's no polishing, there's no leaching into seawater. So in case you talk about sustainability, this for us is really the end game. And that's also another reason why people, ship owners, are installing more and more this system. Okay, that's, let's say, the highlight. If you talk about sustainability, CII and EXI, our silicon system, of course, we need to have alternatives. So if you ask me, okay, what is your next best alternative? That's something we thought about also. We started also with this alternative more than 25 years ago, and we have now something, a solution ready. So when do you need the alternative? Okay, when you do not do a full blast for silicon, when the yard doesn't want to apply silicon, or when you're just in a hurry and you need something to just do the job and you don't want to go the silicon path. So the next best alternative will be our Nexion. Now, Nexion is a copper-free antifouling. We anticipated one day copper will be a problem, so we took it out and we replaced it by organic, degradable biocides. So this is a biocide antifouling, but it will have way less biocides. We focused on the Coast Guard and the Navy in the beginning, 25 years ago, but since 2014, we have a commercial system available also for shipping. What it does, Nexion, it is an antifouling, but if you compare it to a copper antifouling, the amount of biocides is way less. So it carries 8% rather than the 45% that you have in copper containing. And the biocides that are in are organic, so they break down as soon as they are released into seawater. There's no accumulation. So this is a big advantage if you talk about emission sustainability. Not as good as silicon, because that's 0. This is still 8%, but it's a step in the right direction. The next thing, and that was like what we call a serendipity. We found something that is positive, but we were not looking for that originally. And what we found is, of course, logical. If you put copper, if you look at copper as a particle, it's coarse. It's a 60 micron particle in a 150 micron layer, so it sticks out, as you can see on the left picture. If you replace copper by something smooth, you get a smoother surface after application right from the start, like 25-30% smoother, and that's the thing you will see in your friction, in your CII. The next thing we saw with taking out copper is color retention. Copper is discoloring in the butop, obviously, by oxygen. If you replace copper by something else, you get a very nice color retention. So not only antifouling performance, as you see on the middle picture, not only speed power improvement, as on the right picture, you also get a cosmetic add-on. The paint will remain its color. This ship is actually from a Middle East owner, sailing around somewhere here. So you can maybe one day, if you see this, you know it's us. So that's our next best alternative. I just want to shortly, in 10 seconds, touch upon the third option, another antifouling hull treatment that can also help your CII, not as much as silicon or the Nexion, the copper-free, but it is also a first step in the right direction. And that is our ultra premium. Okay, this is a heavy biocide loaded antifouling, so an old school antifouling, but then pimped. It is Sigma Sail Advance NX. So this one has linear polishing, it has a minimum leached layer, and of course it's quite boosted with biocides. So this is the first step for us in ultra premium. The upgrade will be Nexion, copper-free, smooth from start, and cosmetic. And the end game, the top level, would be silicon, with no emission, no biocide, and long-lasting 10 years performance. So for me, I started this journey when I started the company more than 25 years ago. I started with a vision, especially on silicons. Silicons and Nexion, those are my two other kids. I have two real kids and I have two business kids. These products started a long time ago when all of what we discussed today was irrelevant. But now, 25 years later, it's all about hull friction, decarbonization, sustainability, and reduced emission. So for me, a very personal vision turned into value. For me, a professional story turned into value and came very relevant in today's agenda. A story for me, a personal story and an adventure, but I think an opportunity for us all going forward. Thank you very much.
I think I already saw a finger go up, not a hand, but yeah, the hand go up, okay. Mr. Sohail Nazir, who is the fleet manager for Onyx. Mr. Nazir, you can start speaking.
It was an excellent presentation. Well, I want to ask you one thing. Why the yards, they don't encourage to do the silicone paints? First question. Second question is this. With this paint, which you are showing us good results, if we use the air lubrication system, is it going to enhance the system more in saving the energy and the reduction in the emission? And third,
Can I start with the first question? Because the second I need to ask you again. So the first question is about the yards. I guess you refer to the new building yards.
Yes.
In China and Korea. That is an obstacle. And to be honest, we need to team up. So I'm talking also to the bigger ship owners with order books or planned new building, because they want really silicon right from the start. But the yards is a very difficult nut to crack. We have a few ideas, we have a few options. If I can share, if there's time, I mean, one of the options we are looking into now is electrostatic application. I didn't mention it, but this paint, the silicon, is also engineered to be applicable by electrostatic. So you have less overspray. Instead of 30-40%, you go to 5 to 10% overspray. That is taking a big improvement when you talk about silicon contamination and the fear of the yard. That conversation we're having right now with the yards, also with ship owners, trying to convince them. What will be a difficult and longer story. Maintenance, M&R, is different. Maintenance yards are used to this for basically 20, 25 years. Especially recently, it is picking up. So yards in Turkey, Middle East, but also we have some good yards in China, also some less good ones. But we see yards in M&R can apply this.
Because we recently built 3 LR2 and we wanted to do a silicon paint, but the yard in Korea, they were not interested.
No.
They refused completely. They say we have to stop all the other jobs. If you have to do your ship, you have to cordon the area completely.
Yeah.
So anyway, we couldn't do it.
Yeah.
The second question was this, that the air lubrication system, it also is improving the efficiency and reduction of the emission. So is it going to help with the silicon paint? Lot of saving or improvement with your paint?
You talk about air lubrication.
Yes.
Air lubrication is around for a while. And what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, I'm not doing it myself, but what I'm hearing is the energy you put on top and what you save on the bottom is net zero or negative even. So what I've been looking into, and this is a long time ago, this is also my lab days, I've been looking into ways to retain air in my coating. Now, retaining air in the coating can be done if it's super hydrophobous. Now, silicon paint is hydrophobous. It has a contact angle of 120 degrees. Super hydrophobous means a contact angle of 140 degrees. And super hydrophobous, air is also super hydrophobous. So like for like, it will retain air if super hydrophobous. Now, how to get there in silicon? What we did also over the last 15 years, we with a partnership with Avery Dennison, we made silicon foil, so on a sticker. Okay, for big ships, not an option yet, but for parts of the ship, that is becoming an option. It is manual application. Now, if you do texturing, engraving or embossing of the foil, and you increase the specific surface area, this would mean you increase the hydrophobicity to the right level to retain air. So that is something I'm looking in right now, and if there's a ship owner interested in investing air lubrication, I think we should talk and team up to see how can we retain that air on the bottom. So hopefully in 5 years from now, you will see it in my story.
Noted, thanks.
While the mic goes to Ashraf, I was speaking to Silverstream Technologies, right? They're the ones who are doing air lubrication systems. Now, when you talk about savings, you must first establish a benchmark. You're saving on what? There's a percentage. Percentage on what, correct? Right. If you take a traditional, even a premium anti-fouling, yes, when you add the air lubrication, there is a saving. But once you have the ultra premium, which is the silicon, the savings potential thereafter for the air lubrication is a lot less higher. It is still there, but the ROI will be rather extended.
Yeah.
Because I spoke to them regarding this. That was before the first beer. Yeah.
But then again, just to reconfirm, maintenance and repair, dry dockings, that's where we can apply silicon. It's new build where we have restrictions from the yards at this moment. But also, and I want to add that, the Korean government is imposing legislation on the content of biocide in paint. Okay, I think they get a waiver for the time being in the big shipyards, but how long will it take? 5 years? 6 years? 10 years? I don't think so. There will be a moment that Korean yards have to swap and also invest in ways to apply silicon.
Ashraf,
Very quick one. It's about the lifetime.
can you?
It's about the lifetime. I can see that this anti-fouling can stay for 5 years, but I'm quite sure you know that we have also what we call extended dry dock that can go for 7.5 years.
Yeah.
Is it applicable, or and that has been approved by any class for that?
Yeah, we can, with silicon, we can do the extended docking interval, that's no problem. What we also do, we can extend the lifetime of the silicon. Of course, when you don't damage it or ground it, can also go 2 docking intervals. So you have the initial installation, the next docking. Okay, there will be some touch-up repair, anchor chain damage. If you want, you can do a refresh coat of the finish only, but you don't have to take it off. It is one-time blasting and installing. Next docking in 5 years or 7.5 years, you do touch-up repair and you go again.
This had already been approved by any class or not yet?
Yes, it is. We have certification on that. It's approved. Yeah, yeah.
Type approval.
Yeah.
Leroy,
Yeah.
Hey, Simon. Allow me to compliment you once again on the good presentation. Could you briefly touch upon the total cost impact? I mean, when you talk about a silicon coating versus a biocide-based coating. So right from the cost of the product to cost of application, but also more importantly, the cost of production. Is there a lot more energy spent in producing silicon coatings as opposed to a biocide coating?
Yeah. I'll start with the last question. The simple answer is no. The paint production is the same. You put binder, pigments, you stir, you grind, and it's a paint. So in production, it is same. What we especially target, I think it's scenario 2 or scenario 3, CO2 impact. So we have an indirect impact on the CO2 savings of the ship owner. I mean, what we use in production, logistics and raw materials, is like, you can neglect that if you compare it to the savings we can obtain. So the investment in energy towards the outcome of savings is very positive. Then the costing, depends how you look at it. I mean, I look at costing as total cost of ownership, and we were talking about a 10 years duration. So you look at cost of installation, total cost of ownership, including your fuel savings, plus the long-lasting performance that goes beyond 5 years, goes to 10 years. If you add all that up, okay, I don't have the calculation here. If you add all that up, all that savings, the longevity, the one-time installation, I think it can be very beneficial.
and may I add, it's not always wise to just look at the capex. It is also equally important to consider the return on an investment.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, no doubt about it. It's going to be a ×2 or even perhaps ×3. But
Yeah.
let's not look at that figure by itself.
And that's where ABS helps us. I mean, they did an assessment. I mean, in shipping, there are a lot of mechanical engineers, of course. So naturally, we think about a mechanical solution. I'm a chemical engineer, I'm a paint guy, so I look into a chemical solution. And ABS is confirming that the chemical solution, out of all the options, is actually the best in ROI.
You get what you pay for, right?
I see a question here about electrostatic application. Yes, we can. This product was designed for electrostatic application. I actually witnessed an application a couple of months ago. It was in the Netherlands, in a small yard. They do everything electrostatic. And I was there because there's a technical manager of a big ship owner who's very interested in this. I can show you the movies later on if you want. I mean, it's working quite amazing, and you can reduce your emission overspray significantly. As a matter of fact, okay, this is a new building yard. In a couple of months' time, we will have a docking in Romania and the next in Turkey for the same owner. We purchased 4 sets to charge the paint and to do an electrostatic application in the dry dock. So we'll be in Turkey and Romania, those locations.
Does humidity make a
Does
difference?
humidity affects the paint when you're applying this silicone, because it's very important to control the weather condition?
Yeah, okay. That's with any paint, and that's even more important with silicon. Application is crucial. I mean, the way you apply it, you have to hit the right dry film thickness everywhere, So you need to instruct the applicators, and you are depending on the skills of the yard. That's why I was saying, I mean, Turkey is perfect. They are skilled, they know what to do. We have a ship there every week. Middle East knows how to do this. In China, okay, it's a bit of a mix. So, but if you dock a vessel in China, let us know, we can recommend.
Middle East, I have got doubt. I have faced problem.
And you have good weather.
No, anyway, I don't want to talk about that.
Surface preparation is everything, wouldn't you say? I don't see any hands going up, but before I let you off the stage, I have one for you.
Yeah.
All right? We're hearing about EEXI and CII and all these regulations regarding MAPOL Annex 6. Would it be fair to say that if you just put silicon anti-fouling on an underwater hull, and one of the measures, the easy to implement measures is slow steaming, just pull back the throttle.
Yeah.
Would it mean, therefore, if you had silicon anti-fouling, that you might not need to reduce your speed or run underpowered?
Yeah, that's correct. So in a model, in theory, when you run the numbers, you can sail 0.5, 0.9 knots faster, depending on where you come from. Of course, you need your classification society to confirm this. So if we have this situation and you're interested, we can talk maybe together. We can model this for your ship. We will ask some input. We can model this for your ship of interest, and then we can have this kind of outcome and analysis. And the next step, we can maybe talk together, or you alone to your class society, to give that stamp, so that it will allow you to go this 0.5 to 0.9 knots faster. So do less EPL, basically.
Simon, like we say in India,
Thank
you very much.
Thank you all.
Very insightful presentation. I hope, ladies and gentlemen, you gained as much of value that I got while participating. So thank you very much for your sharing of knowledge, and thank you to PPG.
Thanks, Gil. Welcome.
Okay, folks. Yes, of course. Before you run off, you might want to see what people think of you.
My grades, okay.
Your grades. Yes. Now it's testing time, so I hope everybody's got your phones out, and we have 3 questions for you. The first one is, on a scale of 1 to 5, how relevant is fouling release coatings for your business? Yep. 1 being the least and number 5 being the most. I know what Rami is going to hit there on this phone, so I can already see his finger going towards that button number 5. But don't be influenced by what I say. Yeah, he's just a good friend. And we have 12. I would expect 2 times the number of participants in this, so 13. You want to vote too, please? No. Well, if you look at the percentage in isolation, it's quite nice, 46, but we need some more robust numbers, yeah?
No, coming up.
Much like the return that we spoke of. You don't look at numbers in isolation. Okay, so if we have to go by statistics, Simon, we have 43 plus 29, do the math, yeah, which is 62% in favor of, which is relevant.
Yeah.
Can we have question number 2, please? Right, please rate on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the least, how much value or commercial value, either commercial or operational, you think fouling release could bring to your business. So we go back to those who it's relevant for, and we take it from there. So we have the same number of people who said yes, it was relevant, and you got 62, that's 85% who's said definitely it's, as we discussed, saving to the environment, saving money. Can't go wrong, right? All right, I understand we are a little behind time, so let's move on to the final question. Please rate the readiness for implementation of fouling release as you perceive it. 1 being the least and 5 being the most. We're hoping we get 13 participants. It's only 9, yeah, that was a quick number. Readiness, it's all ready to roll out. And we certainly hope this is a demonstration of the Middle East to accept a new technology. So I would go home with a smile on my KLM flight.
Same here. You're going to be busy. Same for Monzor. Okay. Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Thanks a lot.
We now take a break, yes. You didn't ask any question. Hello, good sir.
Thank you very much for sitting in on the session. I hope you found it useful. And starting just after the break, i.e. in
Thank you.
15 minutes, will be the Future Leaders Forum, and it's a very interesting question, very interesting topic for everyone
he's so
who's
used to
concerned
seeing
about the future of our industry, what we need, what skills we need, what people we need to attract. So I hope to see you back then. Come inside, yes, please. We're about to start. Take your seat. I wanted first to point out that this afternoon session, which I hope you will enjoy because it's about the future of the maritime industry, the future leaders, what do we need to find them, train them, get them to replace us eventually, and move forward with the industry. The session will be recorded and it will be shared with our maritime academies and strategic partners in its entirety, because unfortunately for some academies it is peak exam time, which doesn't really matter to the UAE Maritime Week or to our event, but unfortunately to our students it does, which means they are not able to be here in as large numbers as we would have expected. But please do enjoy the session, do contribute, and keep in mind that it will be filmed and it will be shared with our maritime academies and with our students. And now I will hand off to our moderator for the afternoon, Katie Lee, who is Director of Culture and Engagement at V, so a person with a lot of experience running a lot of people and making sure that they stay efficient, active, happy, engaged, and still, you know, gainfully employed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Oh, can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay, good. Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to our Future Leaders Forum. We'll be discussing what the changes in the maritime industry and how the whole concept of leadership is being reimagined to tackle today's complex challenges. So from COVID-19 to climate change to conflict in Europe to digital disruption, you know, we're living with chronic uncertainty and issues that need new ways of thinking. So not only do leaders need to be more adaptive themselves, they need to build an organizational culture that empowers the entire workforce to step up, to innovate, to learn and adapt. As Joanna said, I'm Katie Lee. I'm Director of Culture and Engagement at V. We're a global ship management and marine services company with over 40,000 seafarers. So to build strong culture across such a large workforce, you need strong leadership at all levels of the organization, not just at the top. So today's topic is one very close to my own heart. It's one I'm very interested in, and I'm really looking forward to the discussion that we have today. I actually find this to be a really exciting inflection point in the industry because we're moving away from hierarchies and more towards horizontal collaboration, less so on the compliance side, more so on self-management. And companies are taking a more human-centered approach, one that places more value on openness, empathy, authenticity, and diversity of thought. So I find that it's exciting because, you know, if we're passionate about freely sharing ideas, building diverse networks, and collaborating across the wider ecosystem, I truly believe that's how we can unlock, you know, the creative thinking, the innovation, and basically all the human potential needed to solve today's problems. So what does all this mean for our next generation of seafarers? What opportunities does it create for them? What skill sets are going to be required for them to build fulfilling and rewarding careers in the future? Also, how do leaders set up the environment that will nurture fresh perspectives and also surface new ways of thinking? And then how do we attract those seafarers? How do we align our organisational culture to meet the expectations and the characteristics of the younger generations? So to help me answer these questions, I'm joined by 5 panellists. Sorry. Oh, we've got a video first. Apologies. Before we start the panel, we'll watch this brief video. Yeah.
Yes. It's a video of cadets from Abu Dhabi Maritime Academy.
I'm my brother Hamid Al-Minhali, a cadet from Abu Dhabi Maritime Academy. My voyage through the academy had many unique elements that helped sculpt my character, knowledge and skills. With the presence of world-class captains and chief engineers in the academy, the experiences opened to me new windows and new dimensions in professional life that does not exist in books. Through the Academy Simulation Center, among the best in the world, I had simulated experiences that made me prepared mentally and physically to the real life work. My experiences did not stop at that only. The Academy offered me the unique chance to join the best shipping companies across the globe as a cadet. The Academy is among very few institutions that guarantees to their students the seagoing service in the best class companies. I'm really proud of my experience in the Academy. The Academy is truly with me throughout my voyage. I'm really proud of my experience in the Academy. The Academy helped me out through my voyage.
السلام عليكم، معكم طالب التدريب البحري قاسم العامري. انضممت إلى أكاديمية أبو ظبي البحرية سنة 2022. تميزت رحلتي بعدة مزايا التي جعلتني أطور من شخصيتي ومهاراتي. مع تواجد طاقم تدريسي من الكباتن وكبار المهندسين ذوي الخبرات العالمية، فتحت خبراتهم لي نوافذ على أبعاد جديدة في الحياة المهنية لا تتواجد في الكتب. وكون الأكاديمية من أفضل مراكز المحاكاة في العالم، دخلت تجارب محاكاة جعلتني مهيئ لخوض التدريب البحري بكل ثقة وتأهيل. لم تكتفي تجربتي فقط بهذا، بل قدمت لي الأكاديمية فرصة فريدة للانضمام إلى أفضل الشركات البحرية في العالم لخوض فترة التدريب البحري. والأكاديمية من قلائل المؤسسات في العالم التي تضمن لطلابها فترة التدريب البحري في شركات عالمية تمكنهم من تطوير مهاراتهم. أفتخر برحلتي في أكاديمية أبو ظبي البحرية التي أعدتني لأكون من أباطنة المستقبل.
Fantastic. Thanks, Joanna. Okay, so our panel today, we've got 5 fantastic industry leaders who are all very well placed to give perspectives on our topic, and very varied perspectives because they've all come from different backgrounds as well in their career journeys. So I'm joined by Rami Rashid, Director of Seamaster Maritime LLC. Yep. And Christine Mavra McAllis, Group HR Manager for VS Oil Terminal. Captain Ahmed Youssef, Assistant Dean at Maritime Transport College in Sharjah. Nick Clark, CEO and co-founder of Greywing. And Captain Thomas Varghese, who's heading up Synergy Middle East here in Dubai. Okay, so I thought we'd start, given that this will be shown to a lot of young seafarers, it's interesting to get just a very brief overview of your career journeys so far. Maybe if we start with you then, Thomas. You've sailed at sea, you've come ashore.
Yep.
What initially attracted you to work at sea then? And what ultimately brought you ashore?
Yeah, my journey, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my journey to a shipping career was quite interesting. In fact, I have never aspired to be a seafarer. I was not even aware that what a shipping career is. The reason behind that is basically in India, our parents always aspire your kids to either be an engineer, a doctor, or maybe an alternate options. But this is not an option which is taken as a first priority. But then it is a coincidence which I should say that maybe I just saw a newspaper clip that okay, there is an opportunity which is available to be in the Maritime Academy, and after a certain amount of period, then you'll be paid so much. So initial attraction, if you ask me, it was all about the remunerations. And then eventually, when I embarked into it, I saw there's a lot of opportunity there. It was not about a narrow thought process. It was a wide segment, a broad segment, which we are looking at here. So that is where I was able to tap into one, where I was mainly focusing on the chemical tanker segment, which I know that it's a fast track journey which I can have in terms of my career path, and also that made it more interesting. And that's how I started my shipping career. And I sailed for almost 12 years, started rising from the deck-carrier ships to the master, and then moved ashore to the ship management.
Great,
business.
yeah. And how did you find that transition to shore? Was it, what helped or hindered that process?
Yeah, it was, to be frank, it was quite tough because what we do on board, we are managing about 20 to 23 people. Here, when we come ashore, we are talking about 15 ships multiplied by 23. So that's the people management which we have to handle. On top of that, there are multiple issues which keeps coming in. So you are not on site. You are there ashore and trying to guide the guys on board the vessels in multiple ways. And there is a trust factor which comes in that people, when we are guiding them or when we are instructing them, certain things has been done in a way it has to be done. So as initially, there was a bit of a teething problem, but certainly we need to grab it because that's an opportunity which is available in front of us. How do I capitalize on it? And then there is always a learning and unlearning that always happens, and then we tend to regroup, see how things can be further, what we call, to ensure that things falls in the right place.
Yeah.
And I'm a part of the integral part of that, yes.
Great, yeah, because I see developing the workforce of the future, we need to develop that pipeline from the ships to the shore.
Correct,
So
correct,
yeah, that's great. Nick, you, I believe you were British Royal Marine in the
Yes,
past?
yeah,
Military
a long time ago. That's true, yeah.
So it's a background in sort of maritime security and things. So how did you get into the digital forefront or the landscape?
Yeah, it's a fascinating question. I think I'd been working in the maritime industry for about 10 years, providing to security the vessels crossing the high-risk area for 10 years. And I could really see that industry beginning to commoditize. The business model was coming down, and I thought one day, do you know what, I should go out and try and get into something digital. The future's digital. I was working in a traditional business, and I had to get out. I had to find something where I could find a business that was going to work. And so I traveled to Singapore, and I joined a startup incubator, and working with the guy that I met there, who was awesome on the technology front, we initially started to set up a platform for vessels to find security escort vessels in West Africa. And then COVID happened. And what we realized was that we could pull out the piracy intelligence on where your vessel might be attacked by pirates, and then we could replace it with intelligence on where you might be able to do a crew change, given crew change restrictions. And then we sat down with one customer. They said, yeah, that's brilliant, we'll buy it. And then the next customer said, well, that's good, but it's not good enough. We need you to incorporate flights. It's no good to us if you show us where we can do a crew change, if the seafarer can't get on a flight. And to be honest, we had that first insight about replacing the piracy intelligence with intelligence on where you could do a crew change. But every other insight's been customer-led, and we've just followed their lead.
Yeah, no, it's great, and I've seen that tool. It's fantastic time saver for people in crewing. It's a real help.
Thank you.
That's great. Okay, and Captain Ahmed, you've followed the academic route from being at sea to coming ashore. Yeah, what sparked your interest in your subject of research?
Yeah, I'm originally a captain, master mariner. I've been on board vessels like oil tankers, bulk carriers, and then I moved to the academia since 2003. I'm a full-timer academia.
Yeah.
My main research is addressed to how to turn the training process to be a kind of an autonomous one, to be a kind of a self-regulated, personalized by the candidates or the individual. So it goes with the concept of hands-on training, providing the proper hands-on training that should be exists on board the vessel. Even if you are a new join, or you are moving from a type of vessel to a type of vessel, or you are kind of in familiarization phase to get acquainted with the new vessel or the new unit that you are boarding, or even for a fresh cadet who just joined the seafaring life and trying to get everything from basics. So this was the concept, to provide a kind of a tool, a generic one, to provide this personalized training, the hands-on in the real workplace, that do adapt with the cadets' learning style or learning preferences, and later on it might mismatch his learning preferences in order to challenge his mind and to trigger the logical skills in his mind. So this is the part that really attracted my point, because maintaining standardized training on board is the real challenge for the whole maritime sector, because you cannot count on it, because definitely regarding the shipping industry, regarding the vessels, there are many standards. There are many flags, many classification societies, many port of registration. So that's why you can never maintain standards for the vessels working in the globe. So I'm trying to maintain a standard for the training regardless to the standard of the vessel or the shipping company.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's good that you've recognise the different learning styles of the seafarers as well, because that's something we often don't address. Is, you know, we need them to learn certain things, especially when it comes to softer skills or leadership skills. We don't take into account their learning style and what they will respond to better.
Yeah, definitely. The whole maritime industry, they used to invest millions of dollars on technical skills, and they didn't consider that much the soft skills. Nowadays, okay, regardless to the amendments that has been done in the STCW in 2010 in Manila, there is further enhancements now in the education throughout the curriculum, throughout everything. At the end of the day, now we are not providing just information. We are providing a kind of a yearly project in order to utilize the information that has been gained by the students into a knowledge. This is step one. Working within a group, working within a research group, this increase and enhance this soft skills. In addition to, definitely we have these student life departments and working on delivering specialized workshops regarding this matter. Seafarer or the captain, I might talk on behalf of captains, because unfortunately I'm not the engineer, but I have the senior line of the academy is standing in front of me. He knows many types of information: metrology, stability, celestial navigation, electronic navigation, everything. Even calculating the density of the water in the river to be able to go ahead with his stability calculation. So he knows many things, very broad information. He needs many hand skills regarding emergencies. He has to be very well acquainted with the procedures, with the equipment. In addition, definitely, to the soft skills, because without the soft skills, he will never be able to manage between different nationalities, different multinational companies, different style of management, different cultures, and this won't be just standing like that forever. I might be working with you for this, on board this vessel, but in the next vessel, I might be working with her.
Yeah.
Different nationalities, different mentalities, but at the end of the day, we have to adapt. We have to deal together from the perspective that we are all even, we are all human beings, and we have to be very well equipped with the proper knowledge and the proper skills, and definitely refined by the soft skills.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And just moving to you, Christine, you know, just what Captain Ahmed was saying, it becomes important as well when we start talking about diversity on board the vessels, you know, like having people that are equipped with the soft skills to handle that shift that's needed in the culture. But you yourself, you know, you've managed to climb very high up the career ladder in a very heavily male-dominated industry. Can you share a little bit about how, like, your journey has been, and have you encountered any obstacles along the way? And if so, how do you clear the path for yourself going forward?
In absolute honesty, I don't really consider myself as someone who has really achieved a seat on the table per se. Definitely, I have been one of very few female managers heading departments at some of the companies that I worked for throughout the years. However, I believe that we have still a long way to go until we reach a satisfactory level where gender balance and gender equality is actually seen at the workplace, and particularly in the maritime sector. So having, for the past 5 years, I should mention that I have been focused on commodity trading, working for commodity trading companies that are heavily male-dominated, particularly in roles such as trading, risk, where it's really hard to find the female traders occupying these roles. You normally see them being restricted to back office roles, like in accounting or in operations. So, as I mentioned, there's still a long way to go, and I believe that we need to collaborate. This is not a race between the two genders in the maritime industry. It's about a collective effort and about joining forces to ensure that both genders are equally represented at the workplace, and at the same time, the pay gap is also being addressed. Because in many cases, you find female and male professionals occupying the same position, coming with similar qualifications, similar education, similar years of experience, and yet there is a difference in their salaries of up to 30%, which is a significant difference.
It is, yeah. And I can imagine, I mean, it's still even the mentality, I think, to just assume that women would be paid slightly less, and there's no justification for it at all. But yeah, hopefully we're making some changes in that respect,
I would like to add a few, because I did some research on the subject.
Okay, yeah.
I would like to add a few details, some information on the table. There was a new report recently published on The National regarding the diversity on boards and the places that women occupy at the higher rankings within organizations. So apparently, according to this study, women hold only 8.6% on board seats in the MENAT region, meaning Middle East, North Africa, and Turkey. And out of a total of 9,051 board seats of listed companies included in the study, women occupy only 779 positions. And more than half of all listed companies have just male boards, with men holding 91.4% of directorships and boardrooms in the MENAT region. At the same time, in Europe, about 33% of companies have women occupying board seats. The US and Canada have 32% representation, followed by Africa at 19.1% and Asia Pacific having 16.2%, according to the same study.
Okay.
On the positive side, the UAE, which is the world's second largest economy, Arab world's second largest economy, became the first country in the MENAT region to mandate a quota for women in corporate boardrooms.
Okay, fantastic.
This is it's really exciting news. And we should mention that listed companies in the UAE have more than doubled the number of women on their boards since 2020, as part of the country's efforts to improve gender diversity in corporations.
Excellent.
At the same time, the UAE has the highest percentage of women holding board seats in the 6-member GCC economic bloc, ranks 6th overall.
Wow.
At the same time, in the rest of the Middle Eastern countries, Morocco holds the first place in the ranking, with women holding the majority of board seats. Second is Syria, and third is Egypt.
Okay. Wow, very interesting. Thanks for that, and well done to the UAE for being, at the forefront of doing that diversity. Yeah, and I think, when we're looking at it as a company as well, we're trying to funnel more women into the seafaring careers, at cadet stage, and trying to support them longer term so that we can get them into those senior onshore positions. So that's a huge effort needed. But I know that UAE supports that as well, making the environment on board vessels more suitable to have women on board. Rami, finally with you, just to hear a bit about your career, because it's been an impressive career at a young age. I know you were with Dry Docks before and then took the helm of your family business. And you've recently been recognised by the Ship Tech Awards as a rising star in the industry. So, yeah, it would be great to hear about your journey so far.
Oh, thank you. I think contrary to my colleagues on the panel, I have no real seagoing experience. I have no real maritime experience, and neither have I ever studied shipping in any sort of capacity.
Okay.
I am actually a software engineer by studies. And I graduated in 2009 from the UK, came back, and one thing that I found I was good at was project management and just simply working with people, diverse, and the diversity within a work group. I found myself working in the dry docks for about 8 to 9 months on an extremely interesting project that I knew nothing about when I entered that whole space. And it was actually quite a complicated project because it was a ULCC conversion to an FSO that took more than a year under Maersk Charter. But I was a mere logistics officer, so for the first 3 months I was photocopying files and just stacking files.
Yeah.
But I was interested. I kept asking questions, and they kept giving me more things because there's only so many files you could file away and so many files you could scan at the same time.
Yeah.
And once I finished that, I knew that my father has a very long career in the maritime industry, and he still does. He's now, I think, closing in on almost 50 years in the maritime industry. And although my father sailed for less than a year, he sailed at a time where if you wanted to become a master or a ship's captain, you could not have glasses. You had to have 20/20 vision. And he unfortunately had glasses at that point. And so he decided to come ashore immediately, and you have to reinvent yourself. He started working with P&O, moved around in the Middle East, and found himself in the V Group as well, and then started his own company. And me knowing that at least he having that amount of experience in the industry gave me comfort that, okay, if I am going to dive into anywhere, at least I have a mentor immediately. And obviously I was in a quote-unquote a privileged position where my father is already running a successful company. So I joined, and I started right from the bottom, learning everything I could, from being a boarding representative for the first couple of years, going on board all types of vessels, seeing the camaraderie on board and the relationships between the master, the chief engineer on board, and the rest of the crew, how important each and every crew are with regards to different types of vessels and port call situations, be it in the dry docks or just an anchorage call, for example. And then moving through the different nuances, I think I'm quite lucky that I actually found myself working in a ship agency very early. Because as a ship agent, you are introduced to the entire world of shipping. You are dealing not only with ship managers, the ship operators, the ship owners themselves, but also on the chartering side of things. You also have to deal with different types of building and blading. Then on the logistics side of things, dealing with different sizes of parcels, be it urgent or not urgent, project cargoes, all the way up to main engine replacement in the dry docks, for example. So that sort of exposure really just excited me to continue and just keep pressing within this industry. So I think I'm lucky in the sense that I don't think I'm young anymore, turning 35 this year. My back doesn't feel like it. But one thing that I am always lucky about is that I've had people that have come before me that are extremely open to giving knowledge and information. There are some people here, I mean, Captain Gamal, for example, whenever we go to any sort of breakfast, EMAC breakfast, the old EMAC, or any breakfast seminar, he's always asking extremely interesting questions,
Yeah.
which we all at least learn from
Great,
going onwards. So,
Yeah. Okay.
so now we're in the position where, okay, we also own vessels. We own 5 offshore vessels as well, so we also deal with our own crew. But again, on the ship agency side, we deal with thousands of crew every single year. And I think that sort of training to the reality of seafaring is very humbling.
Yeah.
Because it is a arduous task. It is very, very tough. But it's also something now that we can discuss that there is also a second life that you have to plan for after you finish sailing. And sailing times nowadays are becoming shorter and
Yeah.
shorter and shorter. Sailing careers used to be 25 years, 30 years strong. It may be 10 now.
Yeah.
So reinventing yourself at 35, 40 years old can be difficult, but it's to show that the maritime industry is vast. It is huge.
Yeah.
And you can find yourself in any sort of field within the maritime sector and still excel.
Yeah. And why do you think that people are coming ashore earlier? Is it the conditions on board, or
I think work-life balance is
Yeah.
huge. Definitely work-life balance would be the first thing. And seafaring is rated, what, the 2nd or 3rd most dangerous job in the world? It is not easy.
Yeah.
From it physical safety, but also obviously mental health and well-being safety.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's getting better because of connectivity, what we have on board, and
Yeah.
obviously the training that we have. Now a lot of people have access 24 hours to hotlines where they can at least call and speak to someone when it comes to mental health, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But it doesn't help that at the same time crews are also getting smaller on board. They used to be 40, 50 strong. Now we're talking about 22 to 18 or less.
Yeah.
So the human contact is being severely reduced. Port stays are also becoming reduced
Yeah.
because of just turnaround times in laycans. How the speed at which ships discharge and load at the moment as well is remarkable, but at the same time there's no time for seafarers to even breathe.
Yeah, exactly. And if I come to you now, Nick, because we've just touched on connectivity and technology and things like that, how are you seeing the trends in the industry? Do you see better facilities going on board the vessel, and how quickly do you see that sort of transformation with better technology being put on board?
I think, firstly, I'd like to say it's really interesting to hear Rami describe how he had that software engineering background, but then he stepped into the maritime industry, because I think that's been our experience as well, where there's only 2 people in our company of 13 who have any maritime experience, and yet everyone else has come in and picked it up, and it's been through that mentorship that Rami described, which has been awesome. And I think in terms of deploying technology to help the seafarers on board, I think everything needs to map back to the seafarer. So, when Thomas was describing, you've got the guys ashore, they're liaising with the guys out there. They've got that experience from being on board to help people out and to understand and speak in their language. That's a huge part of it. And I think sometimes, when you introduce technology, that communication can get lost. Communication, it's more increasingly over email. It's less likely that you're going to be able to pick up the phone. You don't have that face-to-face relationship. And so, some of that dynamic, starts to break down. Things can get misunderstood. And I think the challenge with introducing technology is that it will, the risk is that it will continue to become depersonalized.
Yeah.
That personal human contact will continue to degrade, and people won't be able to really connect with the people that matter from a crewing perspective, the team on board. But, that's one perspective. I'd say the way that we look at it is we see the crew operator team ashore, spending a lot of time on repetitive tasks that don't add value. Sending, receiving, scrolling through hundreds of emails. This isn't adding value to the seafarer on board. But what does add value is when they have the time. You know, I spoke to a crew operator recently, and she said, you know, when I got into crew management, I thought I was going to be managing people. You know, I thought I'd be sitting down with the seafarers, talking to them, briefing them before they went on board. But actually, you know, most of my time is spent in administering, you know, crew changes and documentation. It's an administrative role. And I think what excites us about introducing technology into the industry, it's not so much the technology, it's the time that it gives back to humans to have that in-person, face-to-face contact, to build those relationships, and to be honest, to have the time to, you know, pick up the phone to a, you know, brand new fourth officer that's just joined the vessel. You know, he's meant to get a phone call, but crew managers are run off their feet with everything else. They need to have that time given back to them to create that communication.
Yeah, great. And I think, Thomas, it's the same, you know, you'll be looking at this from a ship management point of view, looking at how to adopt technology to help with the well-being of the crew. How are you handling that, you know, to manage, you know, some sort of still personal contact with the crew, but giving them access to, you know, maybe completing some of the tasks themselves? This is the beauty of technology. If they can actually access the information they need when they need it, and cut down the work processes for the crewing team. But yeah, how do you strike the balance with the personal touch?
Yes, certainly. We also have taken certain initiatives at their end. We understand how important is data, how decision can be made basis data. And one of the classic examples to share here, we have embarked into this digital journey. And that maybe I can say that in bits and pieces here and there, but eventually we are all going to end up into a place where it will be entirely digital culture. One of the things which, as they mentioned, what we are trying to do is that we have managed about 600 vessels now. So let's say that we are segmenting the vessels about 100 chemical tankers, 100 MR tankers. So how am I going to disseminate those data across the board? Is there any way to do that? So one of the pain points which we identified was, what I know, how am I going to share that? Is it possible for a human to share or to remember and being an interface all the time, or I can bring data into it, or the digitalization into it? So one application we recently developed purely because of this is knowledge management system. So let's say that there are a couple of incidents which has happened. It could be a near miss, it could be a serious incident which has happened on one of the vessels. But that vessel learnings which has occurred, is it been shared with others?
Exactly, yeah.
So how do I ensure that the other vessels are not going to do the same thing as this vessel has done? So that is where we have developed an application where, with triggering on certain activities, like you're getting into a loading operation, you're getting into a discharging operation, you're doing a tank cleaning, or maybe on the navigation aspects of it, with a click button, with the support of bandwidth, good bandwidth, the system should be able to provide the data to him that X ships has been number of ships, so and so incidents has happened. This was the learning from that. I'm not giving him the investigation report.
Yeah.
I'm just telling him that this incident has happened. This was the reason for the incident. What is the learning out of it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that inferences has to go to all the vessels. It can't be just confined within a office space, or maybe in an archived what we call laptop where others doesn't know, because we keep the turnaround is about 4 months, right? 4 months or 6 months. We keep seeing the crew change. What is the guarantee that the other guy has actually gone through that? No.
Yeah.
So it is a real-time information we wanted to share. So that is where we are coming up to, and certainly it's a journey in progress, I should say, and it may take some amount of time. And important is that how am I focused towards that? That's very important.
Yeah.
So there has to be clarity, there has to be discipline, and there has to be consistency.
Yeah.
These three critical things has to be there. Clarity, why am I doing this? How is it helping? Discipline, maintain that. What you're doing, maintain that. And just try to be consistent in whatever things you're doing it.
Yeah, and would you say this is reflective then of a change in culture where we're moving towards more openness, more sharing information, like a blame-free culture of just, we need to learn from this, and this openness. So have you noticed that shift in culture across your organization as well?
I may be honest here, not as much.
Yeah.
But yes, it should come. It should come by itself. But as of now, it is confined at one space rather than being disseminated across. And people will not like to see things blown up out of proportion at certain areas. So those human element also has to be taken into considerations. When obviously when we are talking about sharing the data, we keep certain things very private. That the confidential information will remain confidential. It's only about the crux of the matter which will be passed on.
Okay, great. Christine, when we're talking about these leadership qualities that are needed today, you know, we're starting to talk more about transparency, empathy, authenticity, even vulnerability and things like that, and especially about collaboration. Given that these sort of qualities have always typically been associated with women, do you see this maybe being an opportunity for the pendulum to swing more in our direction, you know, because we tend to have those qualities naturally? Do you see this as being a positive thing for diversity, this shift in culture?
Definitely, it is a very positive thing, and it is really important that we also do our part by supporting men in this emotional transition, if I can put it this way. You know, this can happen through workshops and seminars and training that should be offered at the workplace in order to help the male colleagues increase their EI, their emotional intelligence at the workplace, because in every heavily male-dominated industry, and particularly maritime, certain sensitivities are not a given. Especially at the trading houses or the traditional shipping companies. I remember as a child, because I'm fourth generation in shipping, and I remember my dad sailed for almost 10 years back in the 70s, and then he came back ashore, and he took over the Naval Academy of Spropyrgos in Greece. It's the official academy for seafarers in Greece. And he became a professor and then a general manager. So during his earlier years as a seafarer, as I remember, I was a very young kid in the mid-80s, going around the shipping companies where our dad was an employee with our mom to collect his salary. So I do remember a lot of flying objects in some of the offices, because as you know, Greeks are very heavily invested in shipping, and certain things are very close to the heart, right?
Yeah.
So whenever I'm hoping that the situation has significantly improved since those days, but I remember how fascinated I was from the fact that this was actually allowed at the workplace. You know, people throwing things at each other exactly because there was a problem on a vessel. So obviously a few decades later, I'm hoping that obviously we are, living in a much more civilized world. I'm sure that certain behaviors are still a thing, particularly for the ship owners, whom we should not forget that the responsibility that they carry in their shoulders is quite heavy, especially for those with the biggest fleets in the world. So, certain behaviors obviously are not justified. However, I think that the HR department, which finally has been recognized as a necessary department for almost every shipping and trading company, and especially if you consider the fact that after the humanitarian crisis that we went through with COVID, people realized, and companies of all sizes, realized the importance of having human resources holding your hand whenever possible, inside the office and outside the office, in order to facilitate work. Right? So I would say definitely through training and supporting workshops and seminars, we can definitely ensure that the male colleagues can grow more empathy and more sensitivity at the workplace.
Yeah. And Captain Ahmed, is this something that's being picked up in the academies, like to start that leadership development and looking at those qualities? What sort of tools are you using for that?
Yeah, we keep on progressing things, but the point that I have seen that maritime academies, universities, so far they are doing their best. They are keeping on developing things. They are keeping on self-criticism. They have an industry council that keeps on exchanging the ideas, adding values. So things is evolving in the right direction, and I think we've reached a very good status. Regarding the governments, especially in this part of the world, they are doing great. They are supporting, they are pushing things forward. But I think that we have a problem, which is the main problem. That yes, I do respect exactly what she was talking about, but at the end of the day, it's the shipping company. This is the cornerstone of the whole thing. This is the atom. This is the nucleus of the whole thing. This is how the industry is built upon this. So it depends on the shipping company, how far the top management is really committed to make things in a better place. Regarding allocating resources to the HR to do things properly, regarding providing a proper in-house training, continuous in-house training, technical and soft skills, or are we only just going to count on the 4 years that you will spend in the academy or in the maritime university? It has to be continuous.
Continuous, yeah.
I'm not sure that they are getting the proper fund for that. Regarding, let's talk about women. Okay, so the basic point, the cornerstone of the whole thing, it's not only about women, it's about the man, it's about the human being.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I don't differentiate between women and men. They are, for me, just a human being. The standard of the ship, the standard of the company, the living standards inside the vessel.
Yeah.
From accommodation, from food, from internet connection, how you will feel social. Now we don't tend to go out that much as we tend to sit in front of our laptops or our mobiles. So are you going to provide me with the same situation or the same circumstances on board the vessel? So all these questions, we have no answer for it so far, as whoever else than the ship owners or the shipping companies, which is definitely has many categories. You have the A-class category, which is definitely everything is available by default. You have the B, which is between this and this, and the C, which is totally unbearable.
Yeah.
So all what we need to do is to work together on pushing the ship owners, the associations, whatever clubs they are in, and I think this is the ignition point. So we have to start pushing on it, start lobbying, campaigning, to convince them we can support them. But I think this is the cornerstone upon which everything will go in a proper way.
Okay, so just providing some solid facilities on board and proper support for the seafarers. And is this what you're finding is the expectation of young seafarers, you know, the cadets that are coming through? What are they looking for when they get on board the vessel? They want something, as you mentioned, similar to what they've got at home.
Exactly, because you are talking about the seafarers, or we can talk, they are maritime university graduates. So the admission criteria is as equivalent as the School of Medicine or the School of Law.
Yeah.
So he's expecting to sit in a decent desk in the law firm. It goes with the maritime graduate. He's expecting to get on board a decent lifestyle, otherwise I'm out of it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Rami, how did you find the transition? Was there much you had to change about the culture in the company when you took over? Was there any sort of major changes from leadership values or culture change perspective?
I'll give credit to my father because he started a company from ground zero. So, and he slowly built the organization to where we are. We now employ about almost 100 people throughout the United Arab Emirates, onshore and offshore. So, something you mentioned before, which was horizontal rather than vertical hierarchy, is something that we implement, or at least I try to implement as much as possible, because it's especially for me now in this position, with the experience that I have, which is only on-hand experience, there are a lot of nuances and terms, for example, and specifics that I just do not know or do not grasp. So I surround myself with people that are far smarter than I am and give them at least an open forum and platform where they are able to just do what they need to do best, but at the same time I can also learn from them.
Great.
We are also, as best as possible, trying to employ and give internships to people coming out of various other, we've collaborated, for example, with the Maritime Academy in Oman. We haven't been able to collaborate with the Sharjah-based Maritime Academy as of yet, but yet is the key word, to give them, again, either insights on offshore jobs with some of the vessels that we own and operate, but also onshore jobs with the various types of activities that we have. But there is a definite change in just general work culture at the moment. When generalizing right now and not speaking specifically, especially when you had certain individuals that have sailed for so long and have been, for example, in command of a vessel for a very, very long time, for that individual to then come ashore and then work in a much different environment in the office, that is also a definite transition period. Because you cannot obviously, I mean, work conditions on board and the way that you have to deal with certain situations, everything is dealt as an emergency situation. So obviously emotions are definitely very, very different. I mean, you describe things being thrown, for example. So, but obviously then that transition to coming in the office, working in a much different environment, you have work hours finally. So there is a definite change. So all of that with the pace that we are moving, and I think what COVID taught us as well with just generally working in office and working in a specific place, 9 to 5, 6 days a week, 7 days a week for us at least. There is a definite shift, but it's a positive shift, I would say at least. But it just means that no matter who you are and what age or what experience you have, you just have to be constantly learning and molding yourself to what it is now.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, this is a situation, an unfortunate situation that we have in the maritime industry, I think globally, is that we are fairly archaic.
And slow.
We're
to
dinosaurs
change.
still. We're catching up. And the issue I foresee right now is that we're trying to catch up a bit too quickly by taking giant leaps. There are lots of little steps along the way when it comes to just general work experience, operational experience that we can make to ease into that transition, because we don't want to shock the system. It's never going to work, because then it becomes something digital. It's either it works or it doesn't work, and people just forget about it.
Exactly. And it's great that you talk about this learning culture and being open to asking questions, asking the right people the right questions, and then making sure that you get feedback on what's needed and what works and what doesn't. Absolutely. Nick, how have you found, which companies are doing it right in terms of attracting the new generation, and what do you what companies are doing wrong?
Definitely our experience has been that we've managed to go out there and find people that don't have that maritime background, bring them in, and they've been extremely high performers. So I think, typically you're always looking for competence before you're looking for that subject matter expertise, because there's subject matter experts out there to learn from. I suppose I couldn't go into companies specifically, but in terms of companies and how they interact with innovation, and how they pull innovation in terms of their teams, some of the best companies that I speak to, sometimes they build a little bit of their technology in-house, but most of it they purchase externally. And I think why they're able to do that is they've got digital natives. So they've got teams of people that really understand technology, have grown up, with a phone, with an iPad, so they're used to it. They're in tune with what's in the marketplace, and then they're also competent. They're data scientists, they're computer software engineers. They've got these qualifications, they've got that experience. So when they go out to market, they're extremely competent at being able to understand what a software provider is actually doing for them, whether or not it's any good, what the integration requirements are going to be. And it's I spoke to this German guy the other day, young guy. He's working for this German company. They've spun out a technology innovation center to be able to pass that on to other people. And, but he's there and he's almost the decision maker. He's in his late 20s. And, normally we're talking to people in, a much different age category. And so I think that's a good example of bringing someone in who's got the subject matter expertise, is a digital native, and then putting them in a position to manage their software vendors instead of having people whose experience is at sea and isn't with software, who won't have that subject matter expertise to be able to reach into a software project and understand whether or not that's even going to work.
Yeah, okay, great. And Thomas, what do you think are going to be the skill sets that are needed, for us as ship managers trying to find a stable, sustainable pool of crew? What are we going to be looking for in the future? What's going to be most important?
More than the skill set at this stage, at least, because that's something which still needs to be explored.
Yeah.
Because it's in a very nascent stage. Let's say that the technology in itself is in a very nascent stage. What we need to achieve it's still in a nascent stage. Because when we talk about the climate resolutions, right, there are multiple options when look to, like, okay, are we talking about ammonia? Are we talking about methanol as a fuel? Are we talking about fuel cell batteries? So there are various explorations which is still going on. So how is the industry going to adapt? And it all depends upon the convenience of it. So to that, what is the skill set which is required? At this stage, I may say that, as Nick has mentioned, competency is always the key. On top of that, if I get other soft skills or his what we call inclination towards digitization, that's a feather in the cap. So that's nothing else which as of now we can. Obviously, maybe down the line, five years, we may come into a semi-solid stage at least to say that, okay, this is where we need to be. This is what the people we need to be. On top of that, okay, and also we don't know how many people are going to be there on board in future.
Yeah.
So are we talking about 20? Are we talking about 5? Are we talking about 10? And who are these 5 people? So rest of the operations, is it going to be handled from ashore? So these are the questions still need to be asked.
Yeah.
And it all depends upon how are we going to explore and evolve out of it.
Yeah.
So let's see. I can just say that rather than coming up with something
of course,
very clear.
No problem. Okay, and a very quick question for all of you. What excites you about the industry going forward then? What do you think, what are you looking forward to most?
What's that?
What excites you about the industry then? Where do you see the opportunities?
Opportunities as Synergy as a company? Or?
Yeah, as for careers and opportunities, job opportunities. Sorry, yeah.
On the shipping side.
Yes.
Okay. So in Synergy, at least I should say that, okay, we are heavily investing into digitization.
Yeah.
So we have our own data scientist. Obviously, we have partnered with Alpha Ori on smart ships and other products and all, but on top of that, we are doing our own research on multiple things. Okay, let's say that wind propulsion is one of the research we are still working on.
Yeah.
And we are trying to collect all the data. We are trying to see what is the insight we're going to get from the data. It is not about buying the software, it is about developing the software, looking at what the pain points are.
Yeah.
So that is where we are heading to. Yeah. And there are opportunities. I should say that data scientists, in multiple ways, as I said, that we are already developing an app, and we are also catering the services to multiple clients. So, and in fact, we also have a digital service company other than Alpha Ori who is developing things for us. Okay. So yes, things are moving in the right direction, I should say.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe not at this stage. I may not be in a position to say that how we are heading, how things will be, but yes, we are taking that pathway.
Okay, great. Nick, any final words from you on what excites you about the industry?
So I've got one startup that I'm aware of. I'm, got no relation to them, although I've met the founder, and it's this Y Combinator startup called Seabound. It was started by 2 female entrepreneurs, and if I was a ship owner, I'd probably be a pretty lazy ship owner. Decarbonisation, I'd say I'd want to do it, but I might not really be willing to invest in it. And what I love about Seabound is, they're creating technology to do carbon capture. So it's almost like a bolt-on appliance that I can put into the vessel. It's going to, capture and filter the carbon. It's going to remove that carbon residue and turn it into something that then can be, pushed off or sold. And all I know about them is that they're doing a trial with Ardmore Shipping. And to be honest, I don't know much more. But what I love about it is it takes the existing technology, you know, vessels as they are, and then it creates a, you know, bolt-on solution for lazy ship owners.
Great.
I'll leave it there. Thanks.
That always works. It's addressing laziness. They're always the ones that want solutions to problems. So.
Yes.
Captain Ahmed, what are you looking forward to about the future?
Yeah, I think the future will take us to many opportunities. Firstly, regarding the gender, yes, females will be having way much more opportunities than now. I can claim that the number of females that we are having currently in the academy are like 40% of the total students that we are having. We are talking
Great.
about 150 female students.
Fantastic.
And they are all local Emiratis girls, and they have done great so far in the sea training. So I think the future will carry a lot of opportunities regarding females. However, things will be changing a bit after adopting the technologies, after adopting the blockchain in any transactions. So I think there is a significant reform that has to be made, and I think it's going to be very soon for the manpower, for the seafaring. It's going to be totally changed, and that's why I was talking about the qualifications has to be totally different, and the training programs to refit the future, I think will need a lot of efforts from us to make sure that we will be able to graduate the proper caliber for the future.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Christine, any last comments from you?
I think that one of the biggest challenges that we're facing at the moment is attracting qualified talent across departments.
Yeah.
And it is really, and this is why it is so important to invest in the enhancement of company culture. It's so important to, you know, to focus on elevating company culture characteristics, and this can happen only through the employment of the right people at the right positions, and at the same time investing in those people with seminars, with trainings, with collaborative projects. I should mention here that at WISTA UAE we do significant work with webinars and training seminars and workshops and events that basically facilitate shipping professionals, and especially young female professionals, to learn more about the industry and network.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, as you know very well, the shipping community is about networking.
Very much so. Yes,
Right?
exactly.
And this is an open invitation for men and for male and female in the shipping industry to join us, either at the UAE branch or any other chapter of WISTA, so that they can learn more about our efforts and our activities.
Great, yeah, and it's a fantastic network. It's a fantastic support network with great resources, so that's a good shout. Rami, any final thoughts from you about what excites you about where the industry's going?
I mean, speaking specifically about the UAE, there's a lot of changes coming to the UAE maritime cluster towards the end of this year and the start of next year, with a new maritime law being rolled out finally, and a lot of significant changes in the region. I think there are a few significant changes coming to the maritime colleges out here in the UAE.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to say, final plug I would say, I'm also on the board of a non-profit organization called Young Ship. Young Ship is a organization that tries to, I would say, nurture young professional individuals in the maritime industry globally. We have a chapter here in the UAE based out of Dubai, and we're more than happy to welcome any members, and it's a great opportunity to learn from experienced individuals or just like-minded individuals that may be in the similar situation to what many people just starting out in the maritime industry that are perhaps just a bit lost or a bit confused just
Yeah.
to give them some real life experience. So
Excellent, great. No, these organisations are so important because I think when you first start out in your career, you don't maybe appreciate the value of networking until much later. So the earlier you can get into those
Absolutely.
groups, the better. Okay, that time went really quickly. It was much faster than I was expecting. So thank you all very, very much for a fantastic discussion. Thank you very much to our panellists. Thank you.
Good job, mate.
Okay.
Lovely to meet you.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Thomas. Cheers. Thanks.
Thanks, Kenny.
Thank you.
Awesome
Thank you very
job.
much. Cheers. Thank you. Thanks very much, Captain Ahmed. Cheers. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Rami. Thank you. Okay, we're moving straight on with the agenda, I think. Are we, Joanna? Is it straight into the next? Yep, okay, brilliant. We're actually just about to dive a bit deeper into the subject of diversity with one of the most respected and influential voices on the matter. I've great pleasure in introducing Sanjam Gupta, Director of Sitara Shipping and the founder of Maritime CEO. Welcome. Oh, sorry. Hi, Sanjam. Nice to meet you. Thank you very much. I'm not too sure. I'll just get Joanna.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today and to speak to you about a topic that's so close to my heart. And while the benefits of diversity are well known, today I'll touch upon the key points and refer to research that I have conducted. So what does it mean to be a woman in maritime? The shipping industry has many faces. Depending on previous experiences, various pictures come to your mind when thinking of women in maritime. Is she a tireless seafarer fighting the elements on deck? Being perceived as a sensitive human being, she proves she can be both delicate and strong. Maybe she wears a suit instead of overalls. In this male-dominated industry, she leads the meetings and negotiations to provide the most impossible solutions to her clients, spreading their product all around the world. Or is she the one at the desk, always focused and quiet? Her dedication creates strategies that allow moving oversized cargo between the most remote destinations. And maybe she's the captain of the ship or the CEO of a shipping company, and her empathy allows her to solve problems of the people before they become problems of the company. Women represent 50% of the potential talent which form the future of the maritime industry. And while there's a moral case for diversity, as a business owner, I know only too well the importance of the business case for diversity. Working together, we all of us can achieve and create opportunities for a more diverse, inclusive, and stronger maritime community. Diversity provides a business advantage and links to productivity and performance. So gender balance is a business imperative. It's an opportunity for growth rather than a business problem. Secondly, accountability for improving gender balance puts the focus on leaders and leadership and not on women. In order for real changes to happen in a company, all organizational functions and levels need to be aligned. Gender balance doesn't necessarily mean numerical equality. Instead, it means a conscious analysis of the gender mix that reflects the available talent pool. As one CEO told me, the goal is not necessary to be 50-50, but it should be closer to 50-50 rather than 80-20. And this is important because research internationally proves that when we have 25% of a group, we have a voice, but it takes 30% to change the culture of the group. And yes, it's better for everyone. Aside from advancing gender equality, having a diverse and balanced workforce or crew can have a positive effect on everyone at work and on board, a message that should be promoted more. So it's important to get the message across to everybody that you're not going to have women coming in and taking jobs from anyone, but as a matter of fact, it would be better for everyone to have a more balanced workforce. An improved gender balance contributes to a more diverse workplace with positive effects both internally and externally. Moreover, it positively influences the attractiveness of job and the competitiveness of the sector. So there's a real business case for female expertise in the industry. Now, if you're not still convinced and would like to know, can perceived intangible asset like diversity generate tangible benefits? Yes, it can. Executives and other organizational personnel are beginning to understand the importance and the benefits of calculating the impact of perceived intangible human assets in today's workplace. But let's back it up with some evidence. While a lot of studies have been done linking diversity to business performance, in 2020, we set out to prove a business case for diversity in India. We interviewed over 100 companies across all verticals of maritime, and this is what we found. To start with, I thought I'd start with some humor. We usually hire people who look like us. And we found that companies who had a low participation of women usually had interview processes and panels that comprised only of men. Companies that had women involved in recruitment and interview processes were more likely to hire women. This is because psychologically we tend to hire people that look like us. We found that a majority of companies who responded to having a diverse team improved their overall business performance and productivity because they stated people from different backgrounds brought different skills, strengths, and approaches to problem solving. This diversity led to more efficient and effective teamwork and decision making. So as we can see that a higher diverse workforce encourages innovation and creativity. A diverse group of people brought different perspectives, experiences, and ideas to the table, which can lead to more innovative and creative solutions to problems. The majority of companies also stated that increasing women's participation led to a positive impact on the company's image and brand. Diversity promotes understanding and empathy. Respondents stated that diversity helped to break down barriers between people from different backgrounds and promoted understanding and empathy. It helped to foster an environment where people felt comfortable sharing their experiences and perspectives, which led to better relationships and more effective communication. Similarly, responses told us that companies that had greater diversity had a better understanding of their market and consumers. Companies that had a lower ratio of diversity had a lot of excuses for the same. They justified the same by saying that women didn't add any value. We often hear the statement, we want to hire women but just can't find the right woman or enough applicants. Well, a quick look at the company's corporate website. Now, the major communications channel for any potential recruit is often enough to determine the organizational culture. Companies sometimes have the trouble attracting the right female candidates because the signals are given to them that it's not a place for women to succeed since there are only men in the top management. It's important for companies to use the right language. The language in recruitment ads and career pages of websites is another good place to ensure that women are encouraged to apply. As we can see from the findings of the research, companies stated that having a higher diverse workforce helped them to better understand and connect with their customers, partners, and stakeholders all over the world. So what should we as an industry improve to become a preferred employer? As the decisions that our industry will take today will shape what we can achieve for the future. And this charts a course to a more sustainable industry. It highlights how far we've come, but also how much more we need to do to collectively reach our aspirations. Understanding what it takes to attract, retain, and develop female as well as male leaders will require a sophisticated level of gender bilingualism. It will also require an acknowledgement that women may not push for power, but in fact may actually make them well suited to exercising it. Conversely, some men who push for power may not be the most effective choice for a particular role and the times. Whoever proved that ambition was an effective criteria for leadership? The main reason for the uneven management ratio is the inability to discern between confidence and competence, and that is because we people in general commonly misinterpret displays of confidence as a sign of competence, and we are fooled into believing that men are better leaders than women. Does it sound familiar? Many of the male executives I spoke to, and with some of them said that we really need to change a culture. We need to push women into more senior positions and provide more role models, as we need to proactively manage the female talent pipeline. So here are some of the reasons why companies rejected women's applications. The single most predictive element of success in diversity agenda is leadership. In companies that successfully rebalance the issue of gender, balance is strongly and visibly led by the CEO, who understand that the minds he needs to change are amongst existence, and usually the male-dominated management teams, and it is these people who will require strong convincing by someone who's perceived as credible. So women will be the strongest resources if you have them on your team and empower them. Young women need to also step up and take every opportunity presented to them. We need to create opportunities for women. Companies should empower women by creating networks, and women also need to take the initiative and use the connections. Also, companies need to provide training, mentoring, which works very well in ensuring there's a pipeline of female talent available. So now I'd like you to all to pause for reflection. If you were put on your trial for commitment to diversity, would there be enough evidence to convict you? To summarize, gender is a business opportunity and not a women's issue. Leaders need to be equipped with the skills to work on gender bilingually with 100% of the talent pipeline. Gender balancing efforts need to be focused on the majority of leaders and managers and not women in particular. Lack of jobs, lack of balance robs the company of important opportunities, and the end goal is the competitive advantage. Some CEOs are quiet supporters but don't like to make a big deal. It's kind of like religion, something that needs to be practiced quietly at home but not to be discussed in public. It's not worth fighting for or to be identified with. This point of view is one of the most common and progressive male leaders I have interviewed. Yet this majority status makes it crucial for the men to change the culture. Yet the naysayers are loud, assertive, and argumentative. Too many progressive men hold back. It takes a lot of courage men to stand up to other men on the topic of gender balancing. Too many progressive men are taken aback by some of the heated discussions they encounter and decide that its gender is not good enough a priority to fight for, so they let louder voices dominate the debate. So we basically have an industry where half the workforce is not allowed to run at the speed they can. It's essentially half the workforce that's going around with a leg in plaster, and we continuously ask them, the very same women, why aren't you running faster? Why aren't you CEO? Why aren't you reaching the ranks of captain or chief engineer? It's just a completely loaded question. Today, more than half of our prospective workforce aren't given the opportunities they deserve or that they need, that our industry needs to be able to prosper. We expect better from our industry. We all want a more prospective industry where profits are bigger and higher. Imagine work when there was gender parity. Even in nations, it's proven that the GDP would go up by 25%. On one hand, we lament about the lack of talent pool available. On the other hand, we have women who want to work. who want to have the right training, education, and have the right motivation, but are not given the equal opportunities to work. Not to let them work is a crime against economics and common sense. And if we want to make our industry even better, then let's give it a big boost by just letting women participate, even at the inequitable terms that they can participate. And if we rank countries on how it treated women and the female labor force participation, then the maritime and ports industry, if it was a nation, we would rank at the bottom. Clearly, we have a long way to go. So coming back to my original idea where growth comes from, the untapped potential of letting women participate in the job market is the biggest underutilized economic potential there is today. It's bigger than if you are an alchemist and learn to convert copper into gold. Bigger than if you found a cheap, clean energy fuel that were free. Now imagine the size of this untapped potential. Coming in terms of participation, we're letting women into the workforce, but with one hand tied behind their back. Letting them participate in equal terms will also increase productivity, not only existing workforce productivity, it's what we think today about the most advanced technology and its impact that we're looking at. Even before the idea that equality is a good goal, whether it delivers economic growth or not. But even if you are cynical enough not to believe in the idea, let's do it for economic growth, let's get gender equality, let's talk to the others in the industry. We have a lot of catching up to do. Thank you.
Check this on. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Sanjam. Couldn't agree more with your comments there. I think, being in ship management and looking after crewing, we've got a huge shortfall of crew and a potentially perfect solution if we were increasing our diversity. So now on to the last section of today's forum. I've got the pleasure of speaking with Captain Rami Al-Breaki, who is not only leading two maritime companies as CEO, but also chairs Young Ship UAE. As we heard from Rami earlier on, it's a non-profit organisation committed to attracting new talent to the industry and cultivating our next generation of leaders. Captain Rami's highly innovative company, Neonautica, provides autonomous and zero carbon emission vessels to the luxury boating sector. And ZMS Ship Management and Operation provides marine solutions to support the rapid expansion of the UAE as a global maritime hub. Please welcome on stage Captain Rami Al-Breaki.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. First of all, thank you very much, Captain Rami, for taking the time to share your experiences and your insights with us. You've obviously spent some time at sea and have come ashore to lead two successful companies. So hearing from you will not only be inspiring for our young seafarers, but also for someone with a marine HR background like myself, because getting your insights on that, on leadership on board and on shore is going to be very useful. So can you perhaps start with just describing your career journey to this point and what attracted you to a career at sea and what brought you ashore?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you, Katie, for the opportunity. My journey started when I got my training in the Malaysian Maritime Academy. I got this opportunity to be trained as a marine officer. I started my career as a cadet on LNG tankers, and I climbed the rank ladder until I got my master license from UK, Glasgow.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was a collective of roughly 11 years sailing time. I took command when I was 28, and I soon realized that I have to downplay or run down my remote presence outside on the open waters and coming back closer with my family and friends. So I joined the offshore supply vessels of ADNOC LNS, and just did that for almost 1 year. And that was enough sailing for me. So, because I was starting to have a life, I had a kid born. So I joined, I did some kind of a career shift because I was faced, I mean, I always wanted to have my own business, but I'm a guy who learns hands-on. So I was thinking of either going and get the typical MBA, or knowing myself, I went and worked in a bank. So I worked in the business banking division and the real estate investment and the commercial aspect of it, as well as the corporate banking. So that in the span of 3 years, I had enough hands-on knowledge to start my own business, humbly as a surveyor consultant approach, as also intermediate for chartering and whatnot. But then in a year time, I progressed into expanding to ship management, technical management. That was back in 2019. And from there, recently I embarked on a journey with Neonautica. As you briefly mentioned, it's a company that works as an incubator for patented technologies, creating the ecosystem that is concrete enough to integrate and complement each technology that we are acquiring, and giving them the platform to thrive and help them to scale up their business. So that's strictly into the leisure marine. Some of it would be in the e-mobility, two-wheelers and whatnot, but mostly put all together in the component which has to do with the battery systems, which is non-lithium.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I want to talk some more about your company, but it's been such an interesting journey to get here, you know, and you've been exposed to various different types of organization and culture and things. How was it taking over command at 28? I mean, that does seem quite young. Typically in the marine industry, you know, you get to master, tends to be kind of 30s, 40s, so how was that?
I wouldn't dare to say it was a walk in the park, but it's how you establish the contact with the crew. When you are at the level of being close to them, and making everything clear to them that you are there just part of the team. The only difference is that I'm looking at things from a bird's eye view, making sure everything goes smoothly. So the age difference, and of course, once you are treating people with respect, and once they see that you have their best interest at heart, they start to cooperate. I wouldn't say that I was the superstar with the some of the seniors that I sailed with, because once you are there as a captain, I was still young, it's a bit challenging to impose yourself on that kind of stage, but it wasn't that tough. But I honestly couldn't continue, not because of that challenge. It was the industry itself for me. I only got into that kind of career because it was the adventure, the exposure, and how we can see things around the world, exchange with different nationalities and cultures. But because it was LNG tankers, we were drowned by paperwork and processes, and it became too dull. And knowing that you're doing that from a level of a captain, where if anything goes wrong, you're the first to be blamed, and not only blamed, could face serious jail time. The ROI didn't make sense to me.
Fair enough.
So that I had to mark a point where I had to stop.
And did you bring that same sort of approach towards leadership? You know, that importance on building trust and involving people in decisions. Did you carry that through your career to now? Is that the same sort of approach you take?
It is. I had, when I left, there were things that were engraved into my cores, and what I picked up and what was like resonating in throughout my other like shore-based careers and ventures is the skill of adaptability, resilience, and the importance of making sure that you are working in the teamwork kind of approach, making sure that also the learning process has to continue. You will always be faced with learning curves. You have to be ready and flexible enough to adjust accordingly.
Absolutely, yeah. And with your new company, how do you feel? You're now at the forefront of the digital space now with Neonautica, and how do you feel the environment's changed, and how do you adapt your culture around that?
I mean, what we're doing in Neonautica is that we're trying to go into the direction where no one is trying to do. Everyone is out there. I think you are at this exhibition. I've heard enough of everyone talking about the big picture thing. Decarbonization, how you towards into digitalization, which improves sustainability. But to go into the level of commercial ships, that is a bit far-fetched right now.
Yes.
So what we're doing in Neonautica is we are experimenting technologies, developments and designs, patented technologies, into a small LEB products, proof of concepts, like a small leisure boat, a jet ski, as big as it can go to a yacht catamaran, just to showcase what can be done, what can be improved. We can refine from a micro perspective, then progress into something more meaningful, more scaled up.
Great. It's an interesting and ambitious project, and I guess the results of it will determine where the rest of the industry goes, because it's all autonomous. Well, you're moving towards autonomous vessels with it, aren't you?
We talk about autonomy, but it's about the energy aspect of it.
Yeah.
So one of them is the catamaran that we are bringing hopefully soon to the UAE. It runs on solar power, and it compensates. I mean, the solar energy and electric aspect of it lasts for quite some time, but then we compensate on that gap with the hydrogen production system. So it produces its own hydrogen. So it makes you like 100% autonomous in that aspect.
Okay.
You're off the grid. It even produces, because of the hydrogen production, produces fresh water. So you only need food and you're off the grid.
Amazing. And the fact you've got these two companies, you've also got your role with Youngship UAE. This must give you quite a lot of airtime with the younger emerging talent.
Yeah.
So what are they looking for, and how do you pull them into what you're doing?
The younger generation, I mean, I don't know if I still qualify as one. They are looking for something more meaningful.
Yeah.
They're getting smarter right now, though. I mean, I'm not saying that the market out there is offering jobs left, right, and center, but in an ideal world for them, they are looking for opportunities where it goes aligned with their values, and it has, I mean, and their values is a bit different from at least my generation and other generation. We're trying to be on the same level of interest that they have, but because they know they're going to face it sooner than us. So their values, it has to do with the sustainability and the diversity aspect and inclusion. They're also looking into opportunities with companies who are progressing to be evolving with the technology that's happening. They don't want to go into a company where it's in a dying industry or an aspect where it will no longer be there in the next 5 years. So that's going to be, they're burning years of expertise for nothing.
Yes.
So that's what I saw so far.
Exactly. And it's great that they're so ambitious. You know, it's a very ambitious generation. They've got a lot of urgent, critical issues to deal with. You know, they're inheriting a lot of problems. But they do seem well equipped to, or ready to tackle those. What sort of skill sets do you think are going to be most important for that?
If we talk from, like, we are on a sea trade, so if we talk about in the maritime industry, I think the digital literacy is important.
Yeah.
The skills of data analysis and the skills of how you can tackle the environmental regulations, how you can also get into the line of adopting the technology. So these are some of the skills that this kind of generation, I think, it would be looked into what they can offer to the employers.
Do you see any sort of nervousness among them about, you know, the sustainability of jobs for humans, you know, because with all the advances, is there a certain level of concern from them?
I guess there might be, but I mean, technology always, I mean, it might eliminate some of the jobs, but concretely it's actually making life easier.
Yeah.
So when a certain aspect of a career is eliminated from the market, I think another 10 aspects are opened for as long as you're open to learn,
Yeah.
adapt accordingly, and improve your resilience in terms like how you shift and project yourself when opportunities present themselves. So I don't think there should be a concern about what happens to a certain kind of career or job, as long as you're always keeping up with what's happening.
Yeah.
There will be always something for you to have an input on.
Yeah, great. And I guess one of my last questions is really about the leadership qualities you look for, you know, like to make sure you've got a strong team to propel your companies forwards. What sort of leadership qualities is most important to you?
Of course, again, it goes back to adaptability. We are in a very rapidly changing world.
Yeah.
To have experience is good, but if you stick with what you learned, I'm gonna tell you, next week is gonna be obsolete.
Yeah.
So if you are someone who's always considering new things, looking at new aspects, that is something that is important, at least for me.
Yeah.
And other aspect as well is somehow if you can induce collaborations, if you can foster that kind of teamwork environment and you become part of it, it's important.
Yeah.
Because, as I said, I come from the background where everyone's job on the ship affects everyone. So it works everywhere, by the way, but people somehow take it for granted because somehow you're just waiting paycheck to paycheck, but you don't know that as little as you can shift your mindset in your organization can somehow collectively have an influence on the bigger picture.
Yeah, true. So always be learning, basically. I think that's the mantra from now on. Great. My last question, if you could go back in time and speak to your younger self, what one piece of advice would you give to yourself before starting your career?
In 30 seconds, okay. I have so many things to say to my younger self. But I would say take more calculated risks.
Okay.
I've reached to a level where I'm really thinking that maybe I'm jumping into so many things at the same time. I should stop calling it multitasking. But it's yeah, if I could go back in time, I would at least more assessment into my choices of everything.
Okay, I guess it's part of the learning curve, isn't it?
It is.
You know, trying things and seeing if it works, yeah.
True.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much indeed,
Absolute
Captain Rami. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Pleasure.
Great. Cheers. So just in closing then, just to round off the Future Leaders Forum, a huge thank you to all our speakers who gave us very valuable insights into how leadership capabilities are evolving and giving our audience some pointers on what will be driving change and behaviour in the future. It seems vitally important to have a human-centred and purpose-led approach and to embrace differentiated thinking. And it's encouraging to see that I think the younger generation are emerging with the right qualities and values that are needed, as well as the ambition as well to withstand future disruption and to really effect change with the urgency that's up until now been lacking. So it seems like the future is in good hands. Thank you very much. Thank you.